for April 3rd, 2025? Yes, my voice isn't on, but the mic is. Let me get a little closer. Sorry, everybody. Semi-laryngitis today. My wife can't hear me either. Can you all hear me? Okay, I'll try to speak louder. All right, calling to order the regular meeting of the Ross-Town Council, and we will begin with item 2, posting of the agenda. Has the agenda been posted? Great, thank you. All right.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes, Mayor. The agenda has been posted. I would like to just make special note of a special meeting that is with one agenda item will be held immediately following this meeting.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, item 3 is open time for public expression. I think there's a problem with my mic. All right, open time for public expression, 3 minutes per speaker, if anyone would like to be heard. Diane?
It's pretty bad when I don't have to say who I am, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Diane Redden, 39 Willow Avenue in Ross. Last month, I wanted to let you know that I was planning to remove the hedge in front of my house, and it only took me Okay. It only took me 3 weeks of convincing Russ that we could do this. And we cut it down, and after we cut it down, we looked at it and said, what was the big issue? It looks different, and it's fine. So we have managed to accomplish that, and we have more to go. So I just want to let you know that if all of us take action around our own home, we can help considerably. And my other hat has to do with disco, which I understand no longer exists. We need something in place in the town for neighborhoods so that neighbors can find a way to communicate. So that is what I wanted to say. And we need to change the website. It lists disco in the town of Ross. Nobody would notice except who went all the way through everything. Okay, I'll show you where it is, no problem. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Is anyone else present who would like to be heard in public expression? Is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no raised hands online, Mayor.
All right. So item 4, introduction and swearing in of new senior accountant, Susanna Zuniga McGuire.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It is my pleasure to introduce the town's new senior accountant, Ms. Susanna Zuniga McGuire. And if, Susanna, if you could be so kind as to step up to the podium. I'd just like to say a few words about you, and then I'll ask the town clerk to do the swearing in, okay? For over 20 years, Susanna has served as an accountant for local nonprofit organizations. Before joining the town of Ross, Susanna served as the assistant controller for the Buck Institute for Research on Aging, where her work supported accurate and timely financial reporting. Prior to that, she held accounting roles with 10,000 Degrees, Bay Area Community Resources, and the Marin AIDS Project. She has specialized in accounting practices that have ensured compliance, transparency, and accountability. Susanna holds a degree in business administration with a concentration in accounting from Sonoma State University. She has lived in Fairfax with her family for over 25 years. When not working, she enjoys spending time with her family, hiking, birding, reading, and visiting national parks. We are thrilled Susanna has joined our small team here in Ross. Welcome, Susanna.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. I'm really excited about the opportunity, and I look forward to serving the town of Ross.
Yeah, thanks. Let's make it. Yeah. So our town clerk, Cindy Martell, will do the swearing in now. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, raise your right hand.
I, Susanna Zuniga McGuire, do solemnly affirm
I, Susana Zuniga Maguire, do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Ah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
aboard.
you.
Thank you and welcome. All right, the next item is item 5, the mayor's report. This month, we are holding our regular council meeting on the first Thursday of the month rather than the second Thursday, our usual meeting time, to accommodate travel and other plans for the upcoming school recesses. At the March council meeting, we heard presentations by Dan Mahoney, Chief of the Ross Valley Fire Department, Jason Weber, Chief of the Marin County Fire Department and Executive Officer of the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority, and Mark Brown, Executive Officer of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, relating to the closing of the Ross Fire Station in July. After over 100 years of having its own volunteer and then independent fire department, Ross joined the Ross Valley Fire Department in 2012, at which point the RVFD, Ross Valley Fire Department, took over staffing and management of the Ross Fire Station. A little over 4 years ago, and after a series of council meetings and extensive community outreach, which included a town hall and community survey, the council made the difficult decision not to reconstruct the fire station as a part of addressing the town's obsolete and dilapidated public safety facilities. Subsequently, after a series of discussions and negotiations, Ross and the other members of the RVFD, Fairfax, San Anselmo, and Sleepy Hollow, reached agreement on a plan to relocate the firefighters stationed in Ross to other nearby stations in San Anselmo and Fairfax. The Joint Powers Agreement for the Ross Valley Fire Department was amended in January 2022 to provide for this change in transition with the closing of the Ross Station by July 1, 2025. The presentations at the council's March meeting provided an opportunity for the council and Ross residents to hear from the heads of the relevant public safety agencies about the steps taken to prepare for and implement the upcoming transition and relocation of personnel and equipment from the Ross Station. It was also an opportunity for the council and Ross residents to receive updates and clarification about issues related to the closing and what we can expect going forward. The council meeting was well attended, with many participating in person in the town hall and others participating via Zoom. I want to express the council's appreciation to everyone who participated and to all those who provided written comments. For those who were not able to hear the presentations, a recording of the meeting is available on the town's website. The council will meet again for its annual budget workshop on April 24th, when we will consider the budget for the upcoming 2025-26 fiscal year. Public participation is welcome. And I should add, that will begin at, I think, 9 o'clock in the morning. We will finish up the month with a Live on the Common get-together on April 25th, and I hope to see you there. All right, next is item 6, council committee and liaison reports. Are there any council committee and liaison reports? Terry?
Thank you. Just two. I represent the council on Age-Friendly Ross, and Age-Friendly Ross had a fabulous breakfast event this past week at the Marin Art and Gardens. We had about 35 to 40 people at the event. It's a light breakfast, and we had a really fabulous speaker, the head gardener, talking about monarch butterflies and plantings in the spring. It was really well done. And then we also had a presentation by Cedars on their new campaign called Choosing Kindness, which was excellent. Number two, I sit on the Transportation Authority of Marin, and there were a number of things covered at our monthly meeting, but the one that was most wonderful was the approval for programming for Measure AA funds to 19 small projects and 14 large projects from the fifth cycle Safe Pathways to School call for projects. It's a lot of words, but what it means is that Ross, thanks to Rich Semenich, who is there in the audience, applied for 4 small grants, small but mighty, for our Safe Routes to School. And it's about $400,000 that we're going to bring in to do that. So thank you, Rich. That's it.
Julie.
So many of you may have seen the article in the IJ today about the conference that was held at the Embassy Suites last Thursday, and I attended. It was sponsored by the California Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force. It was their spring regional meeting. Wednesday night, there was a keynote address by Daniel Swain talking about climate change and the increase in wildfire and the prediction that the conditions are just going to continue to accelerate and grow worse. And then Thursday was a series of meetings. Locally, the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority had a panel that I got to participate on and presented about the startup of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. And there's lots of efforts going on locally as well as statewide to address the wildfire threat. So it was a really interesting, beneficial conference, and I was thrilled to be a part of it.
Anybody else?
So for the fire board, they meet the second Wednesday, so we haven't had a fire board meeting since our last council meeting. That'll be next week. And for the paramedic authority board, as you know, we gave the board some suggested revisions to the lease document, and we haven't heard back yet from them, but we're hoping to hear back soon so that we can wrap this up and get that behind us.
Good. Matt?
So I participated in a concerned citizens group that's formed regarding a fire station, and I just wanted to update the council that the group is looking to potentially do a ballot initiative to put the fire station to our voters. They have looked at retaining Nielsen Merksheimer as legal counsel, who had previously advised Branson's ballot initiative, and they seem that they're very serious in moving forward. So I will keep the council apprised of what I learn.
All right, well, thank you, Matt. I'm not sure that's a committee or a liaison, but we do appreciate the update. I attended the Leadership Council meeting that happens, I think, twice a year. That was held locally with representatives of various groups that are involved with our community. Krista was there, I was there, Matt also attended. We heard from David Rice, we heard from, oh gosh, I hope I'm not going to leave anybody out, I probably am, Cedars, Magic, RPOA, and it was a very, very good meeting and a very informative meeting, very worthwhile. All right, so that is the end of the, I believe that's the end, if nobody else has anything, okay. Staff and community reports, town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few updates. The Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority's 2025 Chipper Day season starts this month. Residents are able to make reservations now, and we are encouraging them to sign up early. They can do so on the website www.chipperday.com/Marin. Public Works staff has significantly improved the drainage condition at the southwest corner of the Ross Common playing field by clearing the inlet and drain pipe and improving the outlet location into the nearby Murphy Creek. Staff has been monitoring this location throughout the last several storms, and it is performing well. We will continue to maintain this drain as part of our standard storm drain maintenance program. And just to provide just a few more details to Councilmember Dowling's fantastic news that the town of Ross was awarded $400,000 for 4 projects. More specifically, those projects are Shady Lane Pedestrian Pathway Gap Closure Project, Allen Avenue Pedestrian Pathway Project, and then 2 on Laurel Grove, the Laurel Grove Safe Pathways Project Phase 3A and 3B. So thank you, Councilmember Dowling, for serving on the town board and being part of that, that award. Pretty exciting. Chief Pata has exhibited great leadership last Wednesday when he coordinated a meeting with 11 representatives from law enforcement and fire agencies serving the greater Ross Valley with a focus on gearing up for fire season. Big thanks to Magic for hosting the event. And I'm going to turn it over to Chief Pata to provide the council and the community with some details about the meeting. Chief?
Thank you, Town Manager Johnson, Mayor, members of the council. Thanks for having me here tonight. I wanted to share a couple things with you. First, I attended a pretty spectacular tabletop meeting. It was one of very few across the nation, and it was held here in Marin on March 5th and 6th. It was hosted by FEMA and the U.S. Fire Administration, and it was really about, how we get out of trouble, evacuations. And so it was a huge confidence builder in me. I wish everybody could have gone to it to see the incredible coordination our fire service really has. They really collaborate well with each other. And it was awesome to be one of a few police agencies that was represented there. And I enjoyed the experience, and I left feeling like, there's some work that still has to happen, certainly on the police side. So I left there thinking, I really need to get together with my partners here in the Ross Valley. So with the help of Magic, allowing us to use their space, I reached out to my partners, and I was surprised at how incredible it was that people gave up their time. I had chiefs and representatives from, obviously from Ross, but we had Fairfax Police, College Police, Central Marin Police, Marin Sheriff, the Park Rangers from the Water District, Ross Valley Fire sent the chief and others, Kentfield Fire, Marin County Fire, Central Marin Fire, and Marin Wildfire was there. I was blown away at the amazing response that we got. And really what this was, it was an informal meeting to sit down as a Ross Valley agencies and talk about, what do we have here? What are our challenges? What are our opportunities? How do we move forward with messaging and prepare ourselves and our community for the fire season, but also flooding as well? Because that's something that does come up. So really the focus was how we message with each other, how we message with our community. We pledged to have these meetings again. We also pledged to have red flag warning phone calls, something that the fire service does, but we've never really done it in law enforcement. So because we really do rely heavily on each other, this is going to be something that we do moving forward. So look for more messaging this year from the police and from the fire department to get our community prepared. One of the takeaways was, there's a lot of things that have to happen. There's evacuations, security, clearing roadways, traffic control. All of those things need personnel to make happen. And our problem is going to be, Central Marin's problem probably, or Kentfield's problem. So we're going to have to get some help from outside, and that just takes time. So this was a great opportunity to learn what we have and what we can do moving forward. So look for more in the future, and thanks for giving me the time for this. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I can answer them. Yeah.
Thank you for doing all that. That's
Yeah.
really wonderful. Was there any talk about having an evacuation drill?
So yeah, we've actually there's one coming up that I'm going to attend in Mill Valley just to kind of see how they do it. We did ours a few years back. We had 15 cars show up. So we're going to try to do something a little differently this time, maybe do just a driveway drill. So
Yeah, I think I ate all the donuts at that other event.
I had some.
yeah, thank you.
All right. All right, Town Manager Johnson. I'm sorry.
I'm done.
That was it?
Yep,
Okay.
thank you,
I
sir.
thought you had more to add. I
Thank
beg your
you.
pardon. Okay, Ross Property Owners Association.
Good evening, Mayor Kirschner and members of the council. Today, I'm here as the representative of the RPOA to make the report. I want to start out by saying that RPOA has been a great institution in this town, and I think has been instrumental in helping bring groups together. I heard lots of different things mentioned already. We've heard age-friendly, we've heard magic, we have heard various happenings, and I think more and more our town is coming together as a community and working together to make things happen. Right now, we're going to begin our membership drive. We presently have 317 residents who are members of RPOA. And I would like to encourage the council members and anyone here tonight to encourage all of their friends who are not members to join the Property Owners Association. And I will recite just a few of the reasons why you might want to do that. Our age-friendly, which Councilwoman Dowling already mentioned, held a breakfast at the Marin Art and Garden Center, and Director Michael Bogart spoke on the topic of spring equinox and its implications in spring gardening. But all of these things are supported, including some age-friendly, by RPOA. We support what goes on in the town. RPOA is considering sponsoring an emergency preparedness first aid training seminar for Ross residents. We are encouraging sponsorship of neighborhood emergency teams, the NETs, and our current projects include, but are not limited to, the new hanging gardens, the flowers that will be coming soon. And in collaboration with the town and Ross School, we're continuing to evaluate drainage on Ross Common. We appreciate that the town has improved Ross Field drainage near the blacktop. RPOA is approaching Ross School regarding a possible allocation of funds towards improving grass near the blacktop, and also will be approaching the town about the same issue. We continue to review upgrading the lights in the post office, which is an ongoing project and a lot of fun. And for those of you that don't know the lovely tables that are in the post office and all those things, those are all your Ross property owners' donations at work. And there's not only the physical act of building, because those were custom-built tables, but of also negotiating to be able to put them there. So that was all RPOA. There's a budget meeting. As you all know, the town is having a budget meeting. And Jeff Koblik, who is our RPOA board chair, and Peter Soler of the RPOA will collaborate with the town regarding our RPOA's budget for 25-26. The Ross Auxiliary Spring Fling will be held on the 25th at the Ross Common. The feature band is the Illegal Eagles, which I think is a fun spelling of Illegal Eagles. I don't know if they play a lot of Eagles music, if you like Eagles music, but show up and find out. And then there's a Live on the Commons for kids bands, which is really going to be fun because all the bands that day will be our students. And so you want to go and see what's coming up. The future of music will be presented live on the Commons on May 2nd. On May 2nd, RPOA will be collaborating with them with Ross School on another project, which is the Global Cultural Event on Ross Commons. Now, this is put on by the school, but many groups are collaborating. Cedars is collaborating, Ross Age Friendly is collaborating, and so come and see what's happening culturally in Ross. And if you want to collaborate, contact the school or the RPOA, because we're inviting everyone who wants to participate and talk about or be a part of their cultural presentation that's going on. And then the RPOA and Ross Auxiliary are happy to help the town with a town dinner, the 4th of July, turkey trot. If you haven't done the turkey trot, you should really do that. The turkey trot and other town events. Feedback was that the last town dinner wasn't quite publicized enough, so we're going to work on that. And that is, once again, I'm just going to say, please encourage everyone you know to join the RPOA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on now to the consent agenda. And this is an agenda that will typically be handled by a single motion, but if any member of the council or any member of the public would like to have any of these items removed for separate discussion, we will do so and take them up separately. So let me ask, does any member of the council wish to remove any item? Town Manager Johnson. Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to request that you pull item 8C for additional clarification.
All right. So that will be pulled. Does any member of the council wish to pull any item? All right. Does any member of the public, either present here or present on Zoom, wish to have an item removed? Yes. Measure 8B, please. 8B. Okay, thank you very much. So we will remove items 8B and C, and that leaves A, D, and E. So is there a motion as to the remaining items?
I'll make a motion that we accept A, D, and E.
Second.
Sorry. This is consent calendar A, D, and E.
Okay. All right, Mayor Pro Tem McMillan,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling,
Aye.
Mayor Kircher,
Aye.
Councilmember Salter,
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins.
Aye.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
All right, now we'll take up separately then, first item 8B. So let's see, how should we proceed? Is there a staff report on that, or staff presentation?
Thank you, Mayor. Our Public Works Director, Rich Simonich, is here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Rich Simonich, Public Works Director. Since this was a consent item, I don't have a full presentation, but the item is staff is looking for a recommendation that the Town Council approve Resolution 2513, adopting the final initial study mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program approved for the Bolinas Storm Drain Improvements Phase 2 project, as described in the final ISMND, and authorize the Public Works Director to advertise the project for public bid. So this is the extension of the Bolinas storm drain that we installed about 3 years ago down Bolinas Avenue to the Sir Francis Drake intersection. And this final phase, 2B, takes the storm drain from the intersection of Bolinas and Sir Francis Drake, carries it parallel with Sir Francis Drake Boulevard down towards the Sir Francis Drake Bridge over Corte Madera Creek. And so we needed to, we determined in the initial study that a mitigated negative deck is the appropriate CEQA document for this. And there were a few items that came up during the initial study that we required to implement, or we will be required to implement mitigation in order to reduce those impacts to less than significant. And that keeps us from going into a full EIR and keeps us within the CEQA requirements of just having the mitigated negative deck. So we did all the proper noticing for the filing of the draft initial study mitigated negative deck with the state of California. There was a 30-day review period. We didn't, where the opportunity for the state regulatory agencies to review the project as well as the public. We didn't get any comments from any of the state regulatory agencies, Fish and Wildlife, Corps of Engineers, that sort of thing. And we did not receive any comments from the public either during that 30-day period. After the 30-day period closed, we did receive some comments from the public, the neighbors who will be most impacted by the project itself. I believe the email from those property owners was provided to council for your review. And that's pretty much my report. And I'm here to answer any questions from the public or from council that, regarding the project or the CEQA process that we went through. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the council? All right, well then, Matt, yes.
How long will the project take?
We envision the project taking approximately 2 months to complete.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll open this now for public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? Yes, could you please come to the microphone?
Good evening.
Yes, hi. Could you please state your name and then go ahead?
Yeah, I'm Orna Meyer. I live at 79 Sir Francis Drake. I'm just going to read something I wrote this morning. Excuse me. We and our neighbors, this is the three neighbors, the three houses, the properties that are right on that easement drive, that use that easement as their driveway. We and our neighbors have shared some of our concerns regarding this project with Richard Simontik, which is contained in that supporting document for tonight's meeting, that email that we sent. But to save time, I won't repeat what's in that email. I'm here tonight to urge the town council to push this project out to later in the year or next year as it was originally planned. First of all, as stated in the initial study mitigated negative declaration, quote, a notice of intent being distributed to all property owners of record identified by the assessor's office as having property within 300 feet of the proposed project. This never happened. We were not notified. We did not get direct notification. And I was not aware that this project was happening. The dates stated in the staff report for open public comment were February 5th through March 7th. We first received notification from the town on March 18th that the project is being moved up from 2026 to May and June of 2025. We had no idea this project was being proposed for this year until March 18th, which was well after the public comment period closed. Therefore, we have not had adequate time to review the initial study mitigated negative declaration document. So after merely skimming the 203-page initial study mitigated negative declaration document and the 35-page staff report just in the last couple of days, both of which I just received, I have additional concerns about the project overall beyond that list that was in the email from all of us three neighbors. I can touch on them tonight, but I really need to have the month of review and public comment time that I was supposed to get in order to dive into the information. This, in addition to the fact that I can't fathom how a project this size is going to commence in 1 month, means we are already looking at a construction timeframe later than May and June of this year. The project hasn't even yet received permits from regulatory agencies or been sent out for bids. As stated in one of the items, our concerns in the email to the town is that my husband, Mark Fritz, and I, our home is, we had a contract to have the exterior of our home refurbished in June. We have received word from the town, when we received word from the town on March 18th, that the town's project was being moved from 2026, which it was published in the budget as 2026, when it was being moved to May and June of this year, we panicked because the contractor, his crew, and all their equipment, the ladders and trucks, et cetera, will not be able to access our house and do their work while the town's project is going on in our driveway. I had to go, I begged the contractor to not only move the work to August, but not increase the price of the work because he has a price increase in that time period. We also had to move our vacation because it is timed with that house maintenance because due to health conditions I have, I can't be in the house when there's painting going on, even if it's on the exterior. The new dates for our homework are the first 2 weeks in August, specifically Monday, August 4th through Friday, August 15th. These dates can't move again. Yeah, I know, I need one more minute. These dates
I
can't
can give you a
move.
little more time. It's normally 3 minutes, but
Okay.
yes, if you could wrap it up.
I'm
please.
going to try to, yeah.
Thank you.
So these dates, so now our work is being done in August, and those dates can't move again. So the town, these dates cannot move again, and the town's work in our driveway absolutely, positively cannot overlap with those dates, those first 2 weekends in August. So this brings us to the second half of August. So as I see it, this project can't be done until at least late August. In addition to the schedule, I have serious concerns about the impact of this project on my health. This is the site of an old railway, and there are no doubt toxins, even if they were under the, not significant according to federal regulations. There's still going to be toxins in there. The project site is literally 20 feet from my front door and living room, and I invite each of you to come out to the site and see exactly how close that construction work, digging with bulldozers down 14 feet on an old railway bed, literally is actually less than 20 feet from my front door and living room. So I encourage you to come see it. I have significant health issues, autoimmune disease. I can give you a letter from my doctor. I can't be exposed to toxins. I'm still recovering from a toxic exposure from 3 years ago. Because I'm being forced out of my home, I request that the town pay for alternate housing for me during the portion of the construction that will be in our driveway. I'm also concerned about, and this is the last point, about
If you
how
could
this
just
might
conclude,
change.
go ahead, because you said you didn't get notice. I've given you additional time,
Okay.
but please, if you could wrap up.
Okay, we're concerned about how this, we have not seen any documentation or proof that this won't increase the flooding problem on our property, and we were actually one of the houses that had to evacuate our home in 2005, the last big flood. So in summary, the project schedule, I feel, is rushed, and there has been poor communication between the town and the property owner. So I encourage the town to push the project out so we can dive deeper into the information. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard on this matter? Or is there anyone present on Zoom?
There's no raised hands on Zoom, Mayor.
All right, well, then I will bring this, the matter back to the council for discussion. As I understand it, I think there may be a request for a continuance of this, but I'm also hearing that there's a concern about timing, so I'm not absolutely clear, but perhaps our Public Works Director could address these concerns.
Yes.
And could you also address the significance of not having the notification? How, is that an absolute requirement before a project goes forward?
Yes, those are all very good points brought up by the resident. The notifications was posted in the Independent Journal, the newspaper. It was posted at the town council, a post office, and another location. But she is correct. We did miss the 300-foot notification for the release of the ISMND. That's one of the reasons why we reached out to Mark Fritz, the resident there, as soon as we realized that we missed that notification. So yes, that is a regrettable circumstance that the 300-foot notification was missed. Regarding the issues that the resident brought up about the working within, trenching within where the railroad is and the possibility of hazardous materials being exposed, that's true in any excavation project. It was identified in the ISMND, and there is a mitigation that is proposed that will need to be implemented during construction to mitigate that within the state regulatory requirements. Regarding the schedule of the Bolinas Drain project, I'd like to talk about that a little bit. So we are also doing the paving for the Sir Francis Drake project as well. And I was hoping to get one project done before the other project was completed. The Sir Francis Drake project needs to be done before school comes back. And so these two projects are, as I get closer and closer to the release date, they are starting to converge such that they're going to be going on probably simultaneously, and it may become unmanageable. So I would be open to pushing the Bolinas Storm Drain project ahead, maybe even into early next year, because it's going to be a little bit too much to manage both projects at the same time. It'll give if the council desires, we could continue this item to give the residents a little bit more time to review the ISMND, and then we can come back at a later time. She is correct, we're still waiting on some of the regulatory agencies to come back with their comments, their permit comments. I have a meeting tomorrow with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. So there is some merit to pushing this project forward, but I believe all of the concerns about the excavation and the timing can be adequately addressed, and access can be adequately addressed by following the mitigation monitoring program that came with the initial study, mitigated negative deck. So I don't know if Ben has any comments on that, but that's Public Works' position.
Yeah, so if we didn't do the noticing, I'd recommend we continue this item to a date uncertain to do the noticing properly.
There is a concern about having to rearrange for what is going on the property. If I understood correctly, I think it's already happened, or at least it's an alternative. So I think there is a scheduling issue here too, but as long as we're not doing something that's going to further interfere with the property, I would be inclined to continue the matter too. But what do other members of the council think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's out of fairness to the residents. We should continue and give them adequate time, adequate notice.
Yes.
I totally agree as well.
And I agree, it sounds like that the residents would like it continued, and Rich can make it work with it continued, so it sounds like that works for everybody.
All
That's
right.
what we should do.
Okay, well,
But are we
fine.
continuing it, or just like postponing it until, we're not,
Well-
continuing mean we're talking about it again in a month? Or are we taking the steps to just go ahead and postpone this part of the Sir Francis Drake project? That sounds like that's what the residents would like us to do.
I would just continue the adoption of the mitigated neg deck, which is before you tonight, to a date uncertain until it's been properly noticed.
Okay.
And so how long would we need to continue this
We'd have to
matter?
follow the notice provisions under CEQA. So we'd have to go back and notice for 30 days and provide the notice to all members of the public within 300 feet of the project, and take their comments and work through those comments, and then determine whether or not we need to amend the MND that we currently have as a draft, and then move forward with the potential council meeting.
So we would not be continuing the matter to a date certain now. We would simply not be acting on this, and then it would be renoticed? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
All right. All right, well, if that's the sense of the council, do we need to take a vote on that, or can we simply not have a vote?
For a vote, just to continue it to a date uncertain.
Well, wait, hold on. If we're just not taking any action on this, can't we just, we're not taking any action? I'd rather not vote on anything if we don't have all the facts, we don't have all the information, so.
Just voting to
Just
continue.
continuing it.
Yeah.
So I'm
It's just a
okay-
vote to continue
I'm okay
it.
to make a motion to
Sorry.
continue
Okay,
it.
thank you.
So I move we continue it. Yeah, I just made one. To continue this issue. Is that a good enough motion? Okay. Pardon me? to a date uncertain.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
All right, so that takes care of item 8B. We'll move on now to separate consideration of item 8C, Town Council to adopt resolution number 2501, making minor revisions to the council procedures manual for the town of Ross. And Town Manager Johnson has reminded me that should be separately considered. I was going to do that earlier, but I left my copy of the agenda at home, so thank you for reminding me.
Sure.
Okay,
Ready?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members. As you know, the General Government Subcommittee of the council, consisting of council members Dowling and Robbins, has been meeting and working on updating the council procedures manual. It was on your last agenda. However, the council had an addition they wanted to make underneath section 5 on the last page, page 14, which has to do with speaking for the town is the title of the section. When I put together I added a sentence to that section per what I thought was council direction, and that's what went out in the agenda packet last week. But then Mayor Pro Tem McMillan reminded me that the council had actually provided additional direction, and I checked with the minutes. It is reflected in the minutes, and so I made the addition to that section, and I ran it by the subcommittee yesterday, and they agree that it is appropriate, and I printed it up, and it is before you on a piece of paper, and I'll be happy to read it, but my request is that you consider the revised language, and if you approve of that, then I would be adding that into the revised version of the council procedures manual, which will be attached to Resolution 2501, which is what is before you tonight for action.
All right, does any member of the council have questions about this item? All right, then we'll open it for public comment.
Would you like me to read it just now, just so
would you-
everybody
would
has
you
it?
read it? Yes,
Okay.
please.
So this is the section, as I said, it's called Speaking for the Town. And the change that was made, that's actually in your agenda packet, is adding a sentence, which is, if you are not the mayor, you are speaking in an individual capacity. That's what I added to the packet. That's what's in the agenda packet. However, the addition would be a little bit further down in the paragraph, when we would add, when a council member circulates or publishes material reflecting a position different from the council's, then the council member must expressly disclose in the same material that it reflects their own position and not the council's. So it's simply an addition of one more sentence into section 5.
All right. Is there anyone present who wishes to be heard by way of public comment? Is there anyone present on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom, Mayor.
All right, then I'll bring it back to the council for discussion and action. Any discussion, motions?
So I would move to adopt resolution number 2501, including the addition that Town Manager Johnson just read.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
All right, so that concludes consideration of item 8C. We will move on to public hearings on planning projects, 9A. 47 Poplar Avenue, variance and town council adoption of resolution number 2511, approving the project subject to conditions. Councilmember Dowling is recused.
I'm recusing myself because I live very close to the applicant.
You go first.
All right, we'll begin with the staff report.
Yes, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Kircher and council members. Tonight, the homeowner at 47 Poplar is requesting approval from the town council for a variance and design review. The project is pretty simple. They're proposing to construct a new in-ground pool and spa in the rear yard. The pool equipment will be located within an insulated mechanical closet. And in March 18, 2025, the ADR group expressed their support for the project since the pool is positioned further back rather than closer to the house. And also, they also noted that public tennis courts are located behind the property, not resulting in any further noise disturbance. Staff requests that the council adopts Resolution 2511 for design review and a variance. Thank you.
All right, any council questions at this point? All right, then we will hear from the applicant. 15 minutes if you wish to use it, or whatever time you think is necessary.
Okay, thank you. I'm Mark Manning. I'm joined here by my wife, Sonia Manning. It was suggested that if there are no questions, that perhaps we open it up to any people that may want to ask questions, and I respond at that point. Otherwise, I'm happy to go through the presentation.
Well, it's up to you, whatever you'd like to say. We have read the staff report and had an opportunity to see the plans and so forth. Yeah. And you do have, if any member of the public wishes to speak in support or opposition, yeah, you do have the ability to engage in a rebuttal. Okay. If there are no, unless there are some council questions, but it doesn't appear there are.
Okay, well, I would say let's proceed in that direction then.
All right, fine, thank you. So let me ask now, does any member of the public wish to be heard on this project in either support or opposition to it? Anyone present on Zoom?
There were no raised hands on Zoom.
All right, well, I think unless you have anything further to add, I'll bring it back to the council for discussion and action.
Great, thank you.
So I move we approve Resolution 2511.
Second. Mayor Pro Tem McMillan? Aye. Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
Great. Thank you.
Fine, yes. I believe Chief Potter will let Councilmember Dowling know that she can rejoin us.
And so for item 10, I will recuse myself because I live within 500 feet of the homeowner.
All right. We're moving on to item 10, and Councilmember Robbins has recused herself. All right, so we will now take up item 10, Town Council to hold a cost confirmation hearing pursuant to Ross Municipal Code, Section 12.20.150, to confirm all appropriate costs required to complete the nuisance abatement that occurred at 61 Shady Lane, Ross, California, from October 14th, 2024 until October 16th, 2024, and direct staff to record a special assessment pursuant to RMC 12.20.150 160 RMC 9.04.160 in the California Government Code, Section 38773.5.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Rich Simonich, Public Works Director. Tonight, we're holding a public hearing to confirm the costs required to conduct the nuisance abatement of a sinkhole at 61 Shady Lane, Ross, California, from that the abatement occurred between October 14th, 2024 and October 16th, 2024. I have a brief presentation. Just going to go over the history of the abatement process, cover a few facts, and then do a quick review of the abatement cost report. So abatement process timeline started January 4th, 2023, when I received a call to that there was a sinkhole that had formed in the front yard of 61 Shady Lane. That's the first time that I observed the sinkhole, and I met with the property owners at that time. Between January 4th and January 6th, there were a few discussions on procedure. I did inform the property owner at the time that the repair of the sinkhole lies within the area of the owner's responsibility. I could tell just by observation that at least part of it was within private property, and the remainder part was within that zone between the pavement and the property line. It is the responsibility of the property owner to maintain it in a safe condition. Between January 5th and August 1st, 2023, various emails and exchanges with the property owner were made. The property owner continuously maintained that the sinkhole was not on their property and that it was entirely the responsibility of the town. Went kind of back and forth with the property owner on those facts, tried to explain to him, show him diagrams that it is in fact within his property. Then on May 24th, 2023, I issued a notice to repair for the owner to commence with the repair of the sinkhole within 30 days. On August 24th, the council adopted Resolution 2333 ordering the repair to be done. October 2nd, 2024, almost a year later, the court granted the town a motion for the abatement order, and we had a very short time to get a contractor together, get him under contract, show him the scope of work, what needs to be done, and actually get the abatement, the hole filled and compacted to a safe condition for pedestrians to use that strip between the property line and the pavement. Note the date was just a few weeks before the big holiday street closure for Halloween. We wanted to get that done so that there would be no dangers to pedestrians within the right-of-way. This is kind of a diagram showing my determination approximately where the property line is as it passes through the hole. This was taken, the picture was taken very soon after the hole was discovered, and then I annotated where I believe the location of the property line is. This is based on measurements I made with finding monumentation along fence lines, observing the survey record that's available at the county recorder's office. I do have a vast library of recorded surveys. They are indexed as well on the county assessor's map. I am a licensed land surveyor about 25 years of experience. As you know, as appointed the county surveyor by the Marin County Board of Supervisors, I have enough experience to be able to determine roughly where this property line was located. And a little bit more of the survey mapping that I used to determine based on existing monumentation where the property line lies. So this brings us to the expense sheet that we've compiled for the expenses that were incurred by the town during the abatement process. This expense sheet has changed since the March hearing, even though this was continued and not heard on the March hearing. It was part of the staff report and the public record. So I wanted to bring up that this is quite different from the one that was presented in March, only insofar as we've removed the attorney's fees from the list of costs. And we did add a late invoice from Miller Pacific at the bottom. That invoice was for their construction observation during the abatement process and their final report letter. Most of the costs are associated with the Department of Public Works involvement in the project since January 2023. This is mostly my time, and it also includes Anthony and Zach, our Public Works maintenance personnel, who needed to be called upon whenever we needed to observe the sinkhole and remove the plywood, and whenever they needed to put up barricades and that sort of thing. But most of the time from Public Works is my own time processing emails, discussions on the phone, mainly this is itemized on a month-to-month record. You can see there were several months in between November 2023 and March 2024 when there was absolutely no input of my own. I believe these estimates of my time and of the Public Works personnel are actually conservative. My largest expense of time was in January when the sinkhole occurred, and that's less than 10% of my of the monthly hours that I put in, or it's about 10%. It sure seemed like a lot more during that month where I was going out to the site, talking to the property owners, responding to emails, going back and forth, doing internal research, and that sort of thing. And that's the same through each of these entries, basically responding to emails, doing follow-up work, and talking on the phone, one of them was a court appearance, working back and forth on the abatement process with the attorneys. It really seemed like I spent a lot more time in it than that, but when it really comes down to compressing the time into a month-by-month basis, this is a good representation of the time expended. And that concludes my report. So basically, the expense sheet is the staff report, or the expense report is this sheet and the staff report that describes the abatement procedure. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, and that concludes my report.
I will open the matter for public comment and hear from.
Mayor, if I may, before we
Yes.
open it for public
Yeah,
comment.
please go.
Under our code, it's a hearing for the property owner as well. So I think we should follow our
The
hearing
usual.
process and provide 15 minutes for the property owner's team, it looks like, the representatives, and then open public comment after that.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. So we'll hear from, sir, well, you have 15 minutes, and then our usual procedure is 15 minutes for the affected party. Then we'll open it to further comment, 3 minutes each, and then time for rebuttal. So please go ahead. Thank you.
Jonathan Pickett on behalf of the property owner. One of the attorneys helped the property owner in this case. I just want to clarify, Rich said there's a change in the spreadsheet. When was that provided, and do we even have a copy of that? Because we were not given the staff report related to this hearing, the second one, or a spreadsheet that's different from March.
I believe I emailed that to you and Terry Pickett.
Okay, when was that, do you know?
That was last Monday, 10 days ago. We emailed it and posted it on the property.
Okay, so the first thing I want to address is we have an expert here who actually reviewed the property, determined where the sinkhole and cause was. If I could have Mr. Raines come up and talk about what he determined during his investigation and his experience.
I should add, my dad was in politics his whole life, and when he was in his 70s, they convinced him to run for the town council, and he won, and he hated every minute of it. So you have my deepest sympathy. So the sinkhole and the two tunnels that extended from it, the volume of soil that moved was tremendous. Oh, sorry. The amount of dirt that got moved was tremendous. It would fill this room about 22 inches up off the floor. So the only feasible place that could have gone was into the sewer pipes that are out in the street. There's two of them. There's an old 21-inch diameter line that was never repaired during the Shady Lane sewer repair. And there's also a 12-inch diameter line that was abandoned years and years ago, but probably not properly. So what happens is there's a hole in one of those sewer pipes. The groundwater comes up, and the first page shows the groundwater intrusion into the sewer pipes in that area. The groundwater comes up. Normally, it would flow slowly down to the bay, but if there's a shortcut that it can use, it'll use that shortcut. So what happens is water starts to flow into this empty pipe, which is flowing downhill. It takes dirt with it. And as it takes dirt with it, a void opens up. And as that void opens up, more water can come into it. And finally, what you get is you get a pipe that goes back towards the property or goes back towards someplace. So if you look if you get a chance, you should look up the failure of the Grand Teton Dam. So anyway, that's the only thing that could happen is that the material is going into that improperly abandoned sewer pipe or into the active 21-inch line, or it could be going into both. There's two tunnels that extend out from the void area. So there's at least two sinks where the water is getting into. And those have not been repaired. The water is still going into them. So there's more voids forming under that road. And eventually they'll open up under a school bus or a Tesla, something heavy. So it's really a life safety issue that the sewer district should be looking into before somebody gets hurt. So, and then I'm a civil engineer, I'm not a licensed land surveyor, but you can't eyeball a property line within a foot. It just isn't possible. So the other pages in here it's just more proof that water is intruding into the sewer pipes. It's the Ross Valley sanitary data, and then the last page is the utility map showing the active and abandoned sewers. So in my opinion, the whole problem was caused by the sanitary district, and the sanitary district is responsible for it.
And just to clarify a few things, if I may, can you give your experience, your license, and how long you've been practicing?
Sure. I'm a licensed civil and geotechnical engineer. I have been practicing for 45 years now. I'm a founding partner at Terraphase Engineering, which has 160 employees now in 4 or 5 states. So I have a lot of experience in this sort of thing.
And just to clarify, with related to the property line, that void goes away from the property, correct?
Yeah, on the Director of Public Works slide, he only showed about a foot of it inside the property line. And as I said, you can't eyeball a property line to within a foot. It just can't be done.
And just to clarify, what we're seeing is like the top hole that basically opened up where the soil caved in below. The void is much larger than the hole that we're seeing at the top.
Yeah, when we opened up the hole, or when the town opened up the hole, they found an old PG&E manhole down there. So that's probably why that void opened up where it did, was because there was more erodible material in there that was improperly compacted.
So in your opinion, this has nothing to do, not caused by, or anything to do with the property owner's property?
No, it's 100% on the sanitary district.
Okay. And did you ever review the Miller Pacific reports provided by the city?
I did.
And what was your review? What did you determine based on those reports?
Miller Pacific was unwilling to point the finger at the sanitary district since they do a lot of work for them. They thought that it might be old tree stumps that were decayed, or it might be two wells that were somehow, for some reason, were in the middle of Shady Lane. The tunnels that extend out from the sinkhole point towards the middle of Shady Lane. So, and then they did say, yeah, it might be the sewer pipes.
Excuse me, sir, please speak to the microphone.
Yes, and
Directly into the microphone.
just to clarify, did you ever reach an opinion about the city's repair procedure of dumping 2 cement trucks of cement into a hole they don't know where it goes?
The repair didn't actually fill the entire void because they were concerned that they would be dumping cement into an active sewer pipe, and they didn't know where it went to. They were afraid that it would come out into Corte Madera Creek, for instance, and start polluting there. So they stopped pumping cement after a while when they began to worry about where it was going.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And just to follow up on his testimony, or what he told the council today, is essentially what the city decided to do instead of actually determine the cause. They tried to blame the property owner and then basically got a court order to dump 2 cement trucks down a hole that they didn't know where it went or the size of it. The size of the hole was surprising when they got in there. In fact, one of the pictures attached to the staff report, it shows that 2 workers basically crawling in there. In addition, their initial Miller Pacific report called for specifically protecting the root structures of the trees and other protections. None of that was done. It was completely ignored. And the final piece of the puzzle is we're seeing a part of a situation where we're seeing the manifestation of the injury, not the cause. We're just seeing where it came to the surface. The cause is much bigger. The city chose to ignore every attempt to actually investigate what was causing this and just blame Mr. Pickett because somehow it's on his property or believed to be. Rich's statement is it's on the owner's property, and it's not. Part of it touches the property line, but it's not on it. In fact, if you go back to the resolution passed by the council about what can be cost and the procedures, they basically found that it was in the area of the sidewalk, which is the owner's responsibility to maintain. That's very different than an abatement procedure, which has to be on your property. Thank you. Yes, Hal, did you want to add anything? No, I don't have anything. No. One other thing I would like to point out is, I apologize, is during the project, the Ross Valley Sanitary District had to basically reimburse the town of Ross $60,000 for significant damage done to the town's council's field. That's been a big concern. And I point out in the report submitted by the town expert, perhaps the most significant disruption to the park was the use of pneumatic bursting systems to upsize the existing main from 21 inches to 28 inches, as opposed to the static bursting, which typically uses hydraulic winch to pull the bursting head at a steady rate. Pneumatic bursting employs an air hammer to drive the bursting head forward, resulting in significant ground vibrations and displacement. As a direct result of this pneumatic bursting, And unbeknownst to the project team at the time, vibrations from the pneumatic bursting operation broke irrigation lines well beyond the project limits. Breaks which were not discovered till after demobilization, and not until the town of Ross began their restoration efforts. Not until after the town of Ross began their restoration efforts was the extent of the damage realized, and then only on a piecemeal basis. And irrigation repairs were initiated. For the reasons described hereon, basically recommends that the district reimburse the amount of this. This was actually known to Rich and the town for years ago about what it did just to the town common parks irrigation. You can imagine what happens when you did all that to Shady Lane, what was damaged. Well beyond the bounds of the project area, unbeknownst to the team. None of this was ever mentioned or investigated by Rich. This was all determined through our own investigation. There's probably significantly more damage done than we even have been able to describe. Now, the city chose to just blame Mr. Pickett, the property owner, and proceed in that manner and exonerate the sanitary district. Thank you.
Well, we're hearing from the applicant now, and once the applicant has concluded the presentation, we'll open it for public comment in support or opposition. So is the applicant finished with the initial presentation? All right, and the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal. But now let's open it for further public comment. Yes, if you would, please come to the podium and state your name.
Thomas Burns, are you hearing me? Good,
Yes,
thank
we
you.
hear you, thank you.
I know you have a mountain of things to look at, so I might be able to say what I want to say in 1 minute. I've lived here since 1940. I lived in waist-deep water twice, in 1982 and 2006. In 06, I spent all day long, because I was the mayor, up to my belt line in the water, and like all the other public officials here, I had a rash from waist down from doing that. But in any event, my comment is, we live in an alluvial plain, and the old houses like mine were built up 4 feet, and both of those floods came up to the same height, 4 inches from the threshold of my front door. And that's just the fact of life that the older home builders knew. Now, I also found out 20 years ago, we noticed distressing signs in the foundation. And so we raised the house and found the foundation crumbling and no steel reinforcement, not unusual for 1906. So we put in a deeper, proper foundation, ultimately did probably a 50 or 60% renovation of the house. And the next time it rained, I had a lake under the house and called engineers out, and they said, you not only have surface water all over this alluvial plain, you have subsurface streams. And your foundation was allowing the water to pass through to get out to the street and go down to the creek. So we dug deep, 4D sump pumps and French drains, and we pumped them to a reservoir outside the foundation, and then another pump that pumped them out to the street. So my interest in this is I live on Shady Lane, and what happened at this intersection of Norwood may be the result of an underground water of streams that's all over this town. And to the extent it is, this strikes me as more of a neighborhood and town-wide on the levels problem that should be addressed as a function of government and not wait until there's a sinkhole here and a sinkhole there. Now, as to the regulation in the town, I was just getting involved in politics and ended up on the council, And there was a very strong personality who drove down Glenwood and had large Australian frond-like grasses growing at the bottom of Glenwood on the way to Upper Road. And so he introduced what I was told was the individual homeowner can most easily take care of vegetation, but I don't know that anybody understood this was going to also involve surface and subsurface water. So to the extent that hasn't been considered, I'd like you to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else present wish to be heard on this particular matter? All right, is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom, Mayor.
All right, well, if there's no one further, the applicant has another 7 minutes for rebuttal. I'm not sure there was anything in opposition. I'm not the applicant, I mean the property owner.
It's 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Is it 5 minutes? I'm sorry, 5 minutes if you wish, by way of rebuttal, if you think there is anything to rebut at this point.
One last issue I want to raise and point out is this could have all been significantly avoided. There's an emergency declared for sinkholes and landslides, a result of extreme droughts followed by extreme wet weather by Governor Newsom that was further made a federal disaster by President Biden. Ross was the only city that did not declare the local disaster in the county. Every other city and county did. That would have provided funds through FEMA for reconstruction, repairs, and this was the only town with a sinkhole in the county. In fact, it was on the front page of the morning after. This is a significant oversight. It's not this council, but it was a council at the time. And the city staff did not do the most basic thing and declare the local emergency. Thus, when we reach out to State OES, who runs the FEMA grants, they said we couldn't find a local declaration, you're not eligible. We could have got improvements, repairs, and because it was a federal disaster, mitigation for future harms. That's how the county is paying for substantial repairs to Paletas Fairfax Road, millions of dollars, so that exact same emergency declaration. Nothing further.
All right, thank you. If there's no further public comment, I'll bring it back to the council for discussion and any further questions. I actually have a question for Ben as to what the precise issue is that we're addressing here tonight. I've heard discussion of causation, discussion of other parties that might be responsible. My impression was that we were just talking about the costs and confirming the costs as opposed to these other issues, but is that incorrect?
That is absolutely correct. The issue before you tonight is not causation. It's not whether, in fact, this was properly declared a nuisance 2 years ago. The only issue before the council tonight is whether the costs to fill the sinkhole were reasonable.
All right.
And I will add, they've been making these allegations for a while about the sanitary district. The court has encouraged them to file a claim against the sanitary district, and they still have not done that yet. The court has urged the pickets to file an amended complaint if they believe the sanitary district is responsible for the causation. And to date, the pickets have not chosen to do that.
All right, Julie.
So, Ben, you're alluding to a parallel civil action that's going on. So there is another avenue for them to try to recover from other parties?
Correct. As the staff report articulated, there was a civil action filed shortly before we had our nuisance abatement action in 2023. The pickets filed an inverse case against the city, the town. The town held the hearing, and then we filed a cross complaint to make sure our nuisance abatement could proceed.
That's still pending?
Correct.
Thank you.
And so issues such as whether this is on the owner's property or on other property, that's really not before us either, correct? That's something for the court to adjudicate?
Correct. Again, we declared this a nuisance 2 years ago, finding that it straddled both sides of the property line. the sinkhole, and that the sinkhole would be declared a nuisance and abated. Whether or not that was right or wrong, that's before the court. Whose responsibility it is to, the causation is before the court as well. The cost of filling the sinkhole is the only issue before you here tonight.
All right, any further discussion by council?
I was just going to say that looking at the spreadsheet, which is what we're talking about, the costs seem well-defined and seemed within reason, as far as I can tell.
I would add, it seems to me the argument here has been more about things like causation that aren't really before us. I didn't really hear much of anything about the costs themselves or reasonableness of the costs. All right, well, if there's no further discussion, yes, Matt.
I think that what bothers me about this is that obviously why we want to put these costs on a resident. I understand that Public Works went to great lengths to fix this sinkhole and felt that the owner should do it. But it seems like there's a dispute on the cause and why they did that. I understand this is not the issue before us, but what bothers me is, our staff's costs and time are supposed to be for solving problems in the town. Like, that's why they're part of the staff, and they spend lots of time working on various matters throughout the day. And I understand what's going on here. I just feel like it would be nice to be able to resolve this by not having to charge maybe fees that the resident feels like are unfair. And I personally don't feel like I'm in a position to judge like what the hours and time that everything was spent to do this versus what is just regular course of business working in Public Works. That's the part I struggle with.
Any further comments, questions, discussion?
Well, I think it's one thing to have Public Works do a limited project, but given how many hours were spent on this, it's not like a customary project where the town should be absorbing the costs. It's $50,000 worth of time, including the contractor's costs. So the rest of the taxpayers of the town shouldn't be absorbing these costs. That's really, in terms of fairness, the rest of the town shouldn't be absorbing this. So I'm prepared to, Ben, what do we have to do? Make a motion?
There's a draft resolution in the packet in Exhibit 9. It's Resolution 2509, confirming the costs.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to approve that.
I will second that.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
No.
With a vote of 3-1, the motion passes.
All right. So can we invite Councilmember Robbins back in to join us, please? Is he?
Okay.
Yeah. All right, we're ready to go. We will move on then to item 11. Town Council to waive the first reading, read by title only, and introduce ordinance 728, amending various chapters of the Ross Municipal Code to reflect cleanup amendments to town holidays, job titles, gendered language, Scrivener's errors, grammatical corrections, errors and omissions, and other administrative positions, and direct staff to return for second reading and adoption on May 8th, 2025. Alex.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Tonight's item is for ordinance 728, amending various chapters of the Ross Municipal Code. What is a municipal code? The municipal code is a collection of laws and regulations that govern our town. It establishes rules for land use, public safety, business operations, and community standards. These laws ensure consistency, fairness, and the well-being of residents while providing a framework for local governance. To access our municipal code online, visit our town's website at townofrossca.gov. On the homepage, you'll look for the resource tab on the top right corner. Once you click that, you'll see the Muni code. You'll click on the Muni code hyperlink, which will take you directly to that to the Muni code document, which is shown here on the right side. Why update the Ross Municipal Code? This is to ensure its provisions reflect current organizational roles, community values, and best practices, in line with the town's commitment to promote transparency, consistency, streamline, fairness, as well as to address areas needing updates. And this is a summary of these amendments to include town holidays, job titles, gendered language, Scrivener's errors, grammatical corrections, errors and omissions, as well as administrative provisions. Now I'll be going over some of these chapters that need updates. The first one being chapter 2.12. This is to clarify that the town engineer shall be appointed by the town manager. Chapter 5.24. This is to designate the town manager as the approving authority to film permits. Chapter 9.20.060, this is to add Juneteenth as a town holiday. Chapter 10.16.050, this is to ensure consistency with the California Freedom to Walk Act, which limits enforcement of pedestrians crossing restrictions unless there's an immediate safety concern. Chapter 12.12, this is to clarify the maintenance of the right-of-way section to reference all nuisances identified in Chapter 9.04. Chapter 12.20, this is to replace the term park with landscape. Chapter 12.24, this is to add Zone 0 defensible space requirements for the fire hazard definition. This will facilitate the permitting and removal of trees within the 0 to 5 zone adjacent to the house, consistent with the current defensible space policies recommended by the Ross Valley Fire Department, Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, and Fire Safe Marin. Chapter 15.36 is to increase the minimum requirement first floor elevation of manufactured homes from the base flood elevation to 1 foot above the base flood elevation. Just like any other single-family home constructed within the special flood hazard area in Ross, the finished floor elevation and under house utilities of manufactured homes must also be constructed to 1 foot above the FEMA base flood elevation. Chapter 15.54 is to remove the $250,000 permit valuation threshold for when the town engineer may require a drainage plan. It makes a no net increase in runoff mandatory for all building permits applications. And Chapter 18, this is to streamline definitions and update the town planner to the planning and building director. Additionally, staff will introduce amendments to the Ross Municipal Code to reflect updates on official town holidays, like I mentioned earlier, job titles, equity-related language, and other administrative provisions. So tonight's recommendation is to waive the first reading, read by title only, introduce ordinance number 728, amending various chapters of the Ross Municipal Code, and direct staff to return for the second reading and adoption on May 8th, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? You and Matt.
I just had a question about the trees being put into the zone 0. How are you guys defining that?
So it's for consistency with the defensible space requirements. It's basically if it's touching a structure or within 5 feet of a structure, a homeowner or a resident could be asked to remove that to comply with those fire requirements.
So are you concerned at all? There's trees everywhere and within 5 feet of people's properties. And I know that trees are a big issue in the town. So I'm just, on this one issue, I'm really worried that someone might want to remove an old redwood tree that everybody loves, and they say, well, it's within 5 feet of the structure and it's dangerous. So I'm just wondering if you guys are working on this or struggling with this, because whatever we define here could have a big impact on the entire community.
Those are good points. So what this ordinance change pertains to is the issuance of tree permits. So all this does is we make it a little bit easier for the tree permitting process, which they still need to go through for removing trees in the 0 to 5 foot zone. We just make that similar to it being a hazardous tree. So they still have to go through the process. It still goes through review, and the public can have an opportunity. If it's a large redwood, we've done that before. We say, well, you can do it if you've got the approval and the okay of your neighbors. It's sort of an informal requirement like that. So it's just to make the process of removal easier through the tree permit process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, well, I'll open this end up for public comment. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this matter?
Yes, Jonathan Pickett. And I'd like to piggyback on Mr. Salter's notation. Some of these amendments are just cleanup language, clarification, striking his and putting them with theirs. Others are substantial amendments and changes to the entire definitions of certain sections. Specifically, fire hazard now includes, under the tree ordinance, are any tree located within 5 feet of a house or structure regardless of species. I just vastly widened or increased what is now defined as a hazardous or fire hazard as a tree. Now, that could cause it to be simple to remove trees, but it also could cause somebody who's bored to basically go and sue additional neighbors under a public nuisance theory for having a hazardous tree within 5 feet of their house. That is the definition now of a fire hazard. I don't think an amendment such as that should just be passed on a resolution or a waive reading as part of the amendments related to language and cleanup. That's a substantial change to the code that kind of slid in there. There's 400 pages of changes. Most of them are just changing minor designations to be consistent. Others are actually striking whole sections. And I think to combine them is a little bit unfair as part of notice. And that's just one example of many. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? Is anyone
No raised
present on
hands
Zoom?
on Zoom, Mayor.
No one on Zoom? All right, then I'll bring this back to the council for discussion. Action, discussion, questions? Anything? Anyone, Matt? No?
I agree with, obviously, the comments that there may be issues in here. It's a lot of changes all at once. Of course, there are unforeseen consequences sometimes when there's so much all at once. So if there are any sections that staff feels like maybe we should take as a separate item, perhaps, I don't know. I just want to make sure we're very certain that we're moving forward with the definitions that won't cause more conflict.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Krista, I assume that you have reviewed these carefully along with staff. And Ben, is this something that you have also reviewed, these proposed changes? Yes. Thank you.
Well, is it correct that these changes are not substantive? They're simply for consistency or that type of thing, or are any of them particularly substantive, a change in policy?
May I respond,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor? Thank you. Yes, some of them are substantive. For example, there's one section that currently requires the town clerk and the police chief to provide multi-thousand-dollar bonds before they start working here. I don't know, I mean, that is just decades old. So yes, we're asking to eliminate that entire section of the code because it hasn't been in practice forever. So that is, we are striking, this is an example of how antiquated some parts of the code are. And so there are sections that we've been working on this for 9 months. There are sections that during our discussion, we were originally talking about coming forward with. So for example, we need to make some changes to the disaster section, the disaster preparedness section, but we just weren't, those are going to be kind of significant. It's something that we know the council and the community will want to have some more discussion upon. The police chief and I will be bringing that back separately. So there were several items like that we decided, this is going to need a little more discussion. But these other ones were really straightforward items that we felt like it's time. This is a document that it's probably going to be 100% perfect, but we need to get started. There's sections that were so antiquated. Thank you.
Terry?
Krista, is there a timeline that you have for sort of putting it all together and finishing it? I know it's a living document. You most likely have to make changes over time and years, but for the most part, because there's some other areas like disaster preparedness that you really want to improve, are we thinking about finishing this up maybe by the end of the summer or the end of the year?
Yeah, it depends on staff priorities. So for example, the Public Works Director is going to be working on a permeable surfaces item. But, some of his priorities might need to change, so we'll bring that back. There are a handful of housing related items in the zoning ordinance that our planning and building director is going to bring back. Some of it, she's going to need a consultant to help her do some of these technical changes. So those will be brought back. And I think we should be doing on a regular basis, we should be doing a cleanup code so that we're not having to do all of these right away. And this originally started just because we needed to add the Juneteenth holiday to it. And as we were looking at it, there were so many things that needed to be changed. So it's kind of a continuous improvement plan.
And I just wanted to say thank you to Alex and all the work that went into taking this on, and yet there's still more to go. So I know it takes a lot of staff time. So thank you very much for doing that.
Julie?
Since this is the first reading, if council members have issues with more substantive changes, they could raise them at our May meeting. Is that correct?
So if we do the first reading tonight and that passes, any substantive edits to any of the provisions, if they're made at a later date, we'd have to redo the first reading.
And I'd like to note that this item did receive additional noticing because there were some slight changes to the zoning code. Am I saying that correctly, Roberta?
That's correct. We issued a 20-day public review notice instead of the standard 10-day.
So
Yeah,
I would just like to suggest that we take the one issue of the trees in the hazardous zone, I just feel like that, just like you're taking some of the other items as a separate issue, just to make sure we have the right process created around that. Because, I mean, even if it is saying maybe, you know, if the fire inspector or some inspector agrees this is a hazard, I'm just very worried that neighbors are gonna fight over now the trees, and if they find a tree to be a nuisance, say, oh, it's a fire hazard. So, and that, I just know that that might come to us, and I appreciate all the work that's done, but I just want to make sure that that language is really clear, the process is really clear, so that it doesn't become something that the council's constantly dealing with.
Anyone else? Comments?
My comment is, there's going to be really strict, severe, frankly, Zone 0 ordinances coming soon in the fall. And there is going to be nothing that's going to be allowed in 0 to 5 feet from a structure, from your house, from your garage, from your shed, from your pool house, whatever. Because the 0 to 5 feet is what burned up Pacific Palisades. Nobody had any defensible space, and nobody had hardened their home. So I think we need to make it as easy as possible for homeowners to remove trees that are in the 0 to 5 foot zone. So I would not want to delay that, because homeowners need to get going on that. This is coming down, and it's also something that insurance companies look at all the time. And that's why policies are being canceled, because there's no Zone 0 space around structures. So I would not want to pull that and slow stuff down.
Are you referring to to state statutes or?
There's going to be some state statutes. Hopefully the governor will sign. This has been pending for many, many years. And there will also be local ordinances that will be encouraged to be adopted by Ross Valley Fire, as well as the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. This is our best defense from wildfire: home hardening and defensible space. It's the best defense.
Any other discussion, comments?
Well, if there are concerns about trees, at the next meeting, we can just start over, right? And just call that the first reading and start over again. So we do have an opportunity to take a closer look at the tree wording and to change it. It just slows down the process, but it's not, I mean, we have that opportunity. So I would probably go ahead tonight, but find some way to make sure that everyone's happy with the tree wording.
I'd be inclined to go with that too, because otherwise it's very difficult to kind of carve this up. Simply go ahead and waive the first reading now, but when we get to the next meeting, or whenever this will be back before us, I think it will be back before us on May 8th, we all would have had a chance to read this, and if there are further concerns, yes, we could just start over. So I assume it would be on the consent calendar, but it could always be removed from the consent calendar.
Yes, Mayor.
All right. Well, that would be my inclination, but I would like to go back and look at this too, just to be sure. All right, anybody else? All right, so what do we need? We need a motion, I guess, to waive the first reading. Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the first reading.
A motion to introduce the first reading of ordinance number 728, waive further readings of the ordinance and refer to it by title only, an ordinance of the Town of Ross amending various chapters of the Ross Municipal Code to reflect cleanup amendments to town holidays, job titles, gendered language, scrivener's errors, grammatical corrections, errors and omissions, and other administrative provisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan? Aye. Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
No.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
All right, so we'll move then to item 12. Town Council to waive first reading, read by title only, and introduce ordinance 729, and ordinance to designate fire hazard severity zones in the Ross local responsibility area, and direct staff to return for the second reading and adoption on May 8th, 2025. And I believe we have Chief Mahoney here.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. We're here tonight to present the fire hazard severity zone map presentation along with a slide presentation. And I'd like to turn it over now to Senior Fire Inspector Rob Bastian.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members, for having us here tonight for the presentation. I'm going to start with the PowerPoint. Is there a way to move this out of the way? Okay, perfect, thank you. So tonight, the presentation is going to cover the California Government Code requirements, state and local map history, how the fire hazard severity zones are determined, and how does this affect our town. California Government Code Section 51179A mandates that local agencies designate by ordinance moderate, high, and very high hazard severity zones in their jurisdiction within 120 days of receiving recommendations from the State Fire Marshal pursuant to Section 51178. The maps were released on February 24th, 2025, so we are well within our start date of that 120 days. Also like to point out that all required marine agencies are currently in this same process. State and local map history. The CAL Fire Hazard Severity Zone map history. After the Oakland Hills fires of 1991, CAL FIRE published maps, or was mandated to publish maps that only included very high fire severity zones in local responsibility areas. The 2021 updated maps, CAL FIRE was required to publish maps that not only includes very high severity zones, but also areas of moderate and high hazard. In 2017, Ross Town Council adopted the Wildland Urban Interface Map, identifying local wildfire-prone areas. The two maps side by side, you can see the one on the left is the local map that we currently have, and the one on the right is the new fire hazard severity zone map. And you can see the entire town is in the moderate area, which is the yellow. And there's a little sliver there along around the Fern Hill, Shady Lane, a little bit of Sir Francis Drake, that's not in any of the zones. The new fire hazard severity zone maps include most of the town, as the WUI maps adopted in 2017 did not. The new hazard zone maps cover more area than the WUI maps, including the gently sloping areas between Lagunitas Road and Bolinas. The new fire hazard severity zone maps exclude a section of town along Shady Lane, Bolinas Avenue, and Fern Hill, as we discussed with the map. How are these zones determined? CAL FIRE used the best available science and data to develop and field test a model that served as the basis of zone assignments. The model evaluated the probability of the area burning and potential fire behavior in that area. There are multiple determining factors to designate a fire hazard severity zone. Those factors consider our fire history, so burn probability passed on on fires up to 2020, vegetation and fuel types, which shows the intensity and heat produced by available type of vegetation, the predicted flame lengths, blowing embers, those are the firebrand production produced by the fire and how they travel, localized fire weathering, the wind patterns and local weather patterns, and the terrain of our area. So results of those scoring factors determine the severity of our hazard zones. High, very high being the highest hazard, with a 40% reduction in severity for the next level down, the high hazard, and an additional 40 to 60% for moderate. The Ross zone, as you can see, is in the lowest of the categories, which would be moderate, which is most of the town. We have no areas of high or in no areas of very high. This is an area of our neighborhood of the greater Northern Bay, San Francisco region to Concord. You can see there's a little bit of very high fire severity zone there in the Corte Madera, Larkspur area. Angel Island is all very high. Our areas are all in the moderate. And you can see areas of Santa Rosa, where the big fires were in 2017, are all in the very high, moderate. These areas here were the area of the Coffee Park area that are not in any zone, and those areas actually burnt in the 2017 fires. What do these maps mean to Ross? So back in 2017, Ross took a proactive approach in adopting the requirements in fire and building when the WUI maps were adopted. The new fire hazard maps include additional areas previously not identified on the WUI maps, and existing 2017 requirements are now applicable to both the WUI areas and the new areas identified in the hazard zones. Specific Ross requirements. So no new impacts for the construction requirements. In 2017, the town adopted ordinances to require the entire town be compliant with construction materials for new and remodels. So what it does is defensible space requirements are now expanded to the new area where the map overlays, and includes vegetation management plan in those same areas during the construction phase of a house. Fire insurance effects. These maps are according to Ricardo Laura, the insurance commissioner, CAL FIRE's maps are intended to drive local planning decisions, not insurance decisions. Under Commissioner Laura's, I think one's misspelled there, a new regulation finalized in 2022, insurance companies must provide discounts for wildfire safety actions such as community mitigation and home hardening, which CAL FIRE's maps do not assess. In addition, insurance companies are already using risk analysis tools and models that go beyond CAL FIRE's proposed maps in determining what properties they will underwrite. As one of our mottos out there, it's help us help you. Create defensible space, home hardening, and make sure you're evacuation ready. It's time for you to adapt to living in a wildfire environment. We encourage everybody to go to Fire Safe Marin for additional information. And on the last one, we have questions and the QR code that'll take you to the state's website on all the fire hazard severity zones and the science behind it and the in-depth detail on what these maps are and how the process worked on the state level. Thank you.
That concludes the staff presentation. I'll ask whether any council members have questions. Elizabeth.
I have a question. Did you say that in the Santa Rosa area, the Coffee Park area wasn't in a moderate fire zone?
Coffee Park currently and still is not in any fire zone. Though it does burn. These maps are based on hazard and not risk, and they're projected for 200-acre fires, not those great conflagration fires.
Thank you.
Matt.
So could you help us just understand the difference between the hazard and the risk? You said it's based on fire hazard and not risk.
So the risk is going to be, okay, the difference between hazard and risk is when actually the built environment. So these are maps based on wildfire exposure or wildland fire exposure into an area projected with the flame length in the Imbricast, where risk is actually specific to a property or to the area. So help me out here, Chief, there.
Yeah, I can help you out a little bit. So a hazard is really the actual physical condition that in the likelihood of something actually occurring there. The risk would be once something occurred there, what will happen? So similar to, I would say, you have a leak, a water leak. Well, that's a hazard, but it's not really a risk until somebody slips and falls on it. So, hazard is what the physical condition, the risk is more of if something occurs there, what will it look like, or what kind of damages will occur?
And so to better understand that, so if you're on like maybe a ridge where the winds come, is that a higher hazard than being in the valley?
Yeah, because part of the hazard assessment has to do with local weather patterns and the data on, I believe it was the top 5% of worst fire weather days within that area. And so, usually ridge tops experience more wind, and the wind patterns tend to hit the ridge tops a bit more.
Okay, and then so just by that, I was wondering if, is Natalie Coffin or that open space with the water district, is that in the risk or no? Or sorry, the higher hazard?
So that is actually in the state responsibility area zone, and some of that area is in the high fire or very high fire severity zones, yes.
Okay. So
Outside of the town jurisdiction.
got it. So just question for you, this has nothing to do with that, but if in these more higher risk areas that are close to town than spread, you're saying the actual risk is higher that this hazard would come and actually affect us?
Yeah, so if you look on the map that attached to the staff report, you'll see that on the west side of Phoenix Lake is where it starts getting a little bit, we cut it out there. Yeah, but attached on the staff report, you'll see that on the west side of Phoenix Lake is where it starts getting into the very high, and that's the SRA area. So it's not necessarily highlighted on our map here because we're more focused on the LRA area the town of Ross.
And sorry, SRA is this, you're saying
The state responsibility
Okay.
area, yes.
And what resources does the state have? Is that CAL FIRE to?
Yes.
Okay. And it's, that isn't even part of the county? Does the county help there? I'm just curious how the state actually
Would protect it?
yeah.
So if there's a fire up there, that local resources would be dispatched up there along with state resources too.
Okay.
So Marin County is a contract agency. They are our CAL FIRE representative.
Okay, thank you very much.
Further questions? All right, then, if there's no further questions at this time, I'll open this for public comment. Does anyone, any member of the public wish to be heard on this item?
Hi, my name's Sean Svensson. I live at 84 Shady Lane. I have a couple questions. First is, I don't even understand, I read the agenda item. Are you just being asked to approve this new map in place of the old map? Because that's not exactly clear, but I think that's what you're being asked to do. And the second question relates to the map itself. It was prepared by a state agency, is that right? So can I see, there's a section of the map that you showed of Ross. And yes, and there's an area that has no designation. And as I looked at it online, it's unzoned LRA. I don't know what unzoned LRA means and why it's like that. And also, why wouldn't we at least acknowledge the body of water that runs right through the town, i.e. the creek, is not reflected on that map? I know we didn't prepare it when we were being asked to approve somebody else's work product, but you've got a gigantic creek running through the town that does have, at least at certain times of year, a defensible characteristic to fire. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other, anyone else wish to be heard on this? All right. Anyone on Zoom, Cindy?
There are no raised hands on Zoom, Mayor.
Okay, then I'll bring it back to the council for questions, discussion. Anyone?
This may have been explained, but that area that's sort of white area, yeah, does that mean there's no hazard at all there? And they haven't decided if it's a hazard?
Based on their modeling, that is what came up within their
It's
modeling.
not a hazard, based on the criteria that they used.
Based on the criteria, yeah.
Julie?
Are these maps something that insurance companies are going to use to decide whether to underwrite a property?
No, they.
But we're
Yeah,
required
Elizabeth.
to approve this because it's a state law that we have to approve it, right?
That's my
So then,
understanding.
I move we waive the first reading and read by title only and introduce ordinance 729 with an ordinance to designate fire hazard safety zones in the Ross local responsibility area and direct staff to return for the second reading and adoption on May 8th.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan? Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 13, yes. Item 13, Town Council to receive a presentation from staff regarding town recreation events and provide direction to staff RE potential changes to the 2025 events.
All right.
Yes, go ahead, Maureen.
Thank you, Mayor and members of Town Council. I'm here to provide a brief presentation regarding the town recreation events and ask council direction on potential updates and changes to the 2025 events. The town of Ross hosts 2 annual events, the 4th of July Parade and Celebration, which is set to take place on Friday, July 4th, and the Ross Town Dinner, which is set to take place on Friday, September 19th of 2025. So we'll start with the 4th of July event. So staff truly enjoy coordinating and working the 4th of July parade and celebration event. Community feedback from the event has been historically positive, with a high return on involvement from participants. The parade typically starts at 11 a.m., finishing around 11:20 or so along Ross Common. The celebration directly follows the parade with music, food for purchase, as well as the free food from the Ross Police Officers Association, and activities for all, including the Patriotic Pooch Dog Contest. The celebration ends just after 2 p.m. Participation for the morning parade and start of the celebration is high. However, attendance begins to taper off starting at around 1 p.m. or so, as seen in recent years. Staff request Town Council's direction on 2 modifications to the 2025 event, including moving the start time of the parade from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m., so the event finishes by around 1 p.m., as well as adding alcoholic beverages for purchase at the event. The reason for this is to ensure our community gets the most out of our event. Bands who are hired to play are playing to more full crowds, and those seeking a beer, wine, or other beverage are able to purchase one on site. Staff's goal would be to work with our local 6-ounce wine bar or other local vendor to manage and sell alcohol on site by obtaining a single-day ABC event permit. My apologies, my slideshow was not following me. My apologies. The second annual event is the Rosstown Dinner. The goal of this event is to foster community and bring everyone together. From 2023 to 2024, staff saw attendance drop by almost half. After the 2024 Town Dinner event, staff wanted to address concerns to ensure expectations were still being met. Concerns from staff as well as residents who voiced their opinions included the following 3 topics. The first was competing local events happening on the same night, such as the final weekend of Live on the Avenue in San Anselmo. This occurred the weekend of September 27th, the same evening as the Rosstown Dinner in 2024. The 2025 Live on the Avenue series is set for the weekend of September 26th, which is the main reason that the 2025 Town Dinner is currently set for Friday, September 19th. Number 2, no on-site food and beverage options. Staff attempted to manage expectations for newer event attendees by explaining all food and beverage is BYO, bring your own. This was also posted on print marketing and websites. Prior to the 2024 event, staff spoke with new interested parties, explained the BYO food, and each instance was met with confusion. Number 3, potential impacts from Live on the Common. Staff would like to highlight how great this event series is for the community, but we wonder if the free nature of this series has impacted the Town Dinner event. Prior to the Town Dinner in September, there are 2 Live on the Common events and 1 event afterwards in October. These events are well-run, they offer great music, they have on-site food and beverage, and they allow for the community to gather for free. Staff ultimately looks to protect the historical significance of the Rosstown Dinner event with a few minor adjustments. However, we are providing options for change if council directs it. It's important to note that with all options, staff plan to collaborate with organizations such as RPOA, Ross Auxiliary, Downtown Merchants, and the Roscoe PTO to help promote our townwide events such as the Rosstown Dinner. Staff proposed option 1 includes keeping the status quo of the event on Ross Common with a slight adjustment of adding on-site food and beverage for purchase. Staff proposed option 2 includes keeping the status quo of the event on Ross Common with 2 slight adjustments of adding on-site food and beverage for purchase, as well as the proposal of moving the event to April, which would make it the first townwide event of the calendar year. This option could give attendance a boost by highlighting it as a kickoff community event of the year. Alternatively, it is important to note that April could bring adverse weather. Staff proposed option 3 includes keeping the status quo of key event components, such as an outdoor community-focused event with linen-covered tables and chairs set to evening music under the string lights. And this included in this option is the addition of food and beverage for purchase. Staff would like to highlight that this option may result in cost savings as expenses associated with renting tables and chairs would be minimized. Also, parking and ADA accessibility would also be improved. I don't know if I mentioned that this would be moved to the Marin Art and Garden Center, so my apologies. Staff proposed option 4 includes discontinuing the event and replacing with 1 or more alternative events. Staff have prepared examples of alternative events, such as a car show on Ross Common. Staff recommend partnering with organizations such as Cedars of Marin, who directly expressed interest in bringing a car show to Ross, as well as the RPOA. Number 2 is bringing back the Ross Common Farmers Market. Ross's Downtown Merchants expressed interest, so staff recommend partnering with them as well as the RPOA on this effort. Staff also recommend hosting the farmers market once per month over the summer months from June through August when school is out of session. Number 3, hosting a family movie night on Ross Common. This event is recommended to include a double feature, 1 for young children and 1 for families with older or no children. Popcorn would be provided for free. And the projector and screen would be rented by staff as well as pay for the rights to screen the movies. Number 4, Makers Fair at Roscommon to support local artisans and crafters. Staff recommend partnering with community organizations and downtown merchants. Lastly, number 5, staff recommend a Halloween downtown merchant trick or treat. This event would feature a trick or treat through Ross businesses to support our downtown merchants and also provide a safe alternative for youth age 0 to 8. Any business registered in Ross would be welcome to participate, and those who do not have a storefront would be given a table. Candy would be provided to all participating businesses. A festive event would follow on Roscommon with the music, face painting, pumpkin decorating, crafts, etc., culminating with a kid-friendly movie on Roscommon. Other than a possible cost savings, if Town Council directs staff to act upon option 3 of the Rosstown dinner proposal, no other fiscal impacts are expected. Staff plan to operate within the current special events budget that is set during the budget process. In summary, staff work hard to manage our special event expectations, and we will continue to find ways to support the Ross community. To further encourage staff efforts to move forward while upholding Ross's history, staff asked Town Council to provide direction on our upcoming events, including the slight adjustments to the timing of the 4th of July event and adding alcohol for purchase. Additionally, staff asked Town Council for direction on possible changes to the Rosstown dinner, including the 4 options discussed. Conditional to Town Council direction, staff will report back with plans to fulfill any modifications or changes as directed. And finally, it is important to note that staff asked Council for direction during tonight's meeting in order to begin our required planning related to our fast approaching events. This concludes my presentation. Thank you, Mayor and members of Town Council. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Just one question, Maureen. I heard, and I've been many times to the Ross Auxiliary Spring Dinner, which is usually, it used to be the winter dinner, but now it's the spring dinner.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if moving our town dinner to April would conflict with the Ross Auxiliary Spring Dinner. So that might be not an option.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem McMillan. I appreciate that.
And then just for my own clarification, I think you said that if we have the town dinner, September 19th, it would not conflict with the San Anselmo activities?
It would still conflict. It just wouldn't be the last event of the season,
Got it.
which is what happened last year.
Thank you.
I wonder if, for the town dinner, there's been any thought about not having music, if that would be a way of modifying the event to make it more popular. I mean, certainly people come for music to Live on the Common, but I've heard people say that they come to the town dinner, but then they can't actually have dinner with people because they can't talk because the music is so loud. So I wonder if that might be something, if you considered modifying the event, and it may just be a small subset of people who might be interested in a quieter event, but I certainly have heard from people that, they can't talk at dinner because there's too much, the music's too loud. So maybe that's something to consider.
Thank you, Councilmember Robbins. Our staff, we have discussed that, and we have been discussing musical options. We would still recommend having music at the event, but perhaps making it more like evening, elevated ambiance, like jazz, a little bit more subdued and not rock band. So I appreciate your sentiments, and we will absolutely discuss that.
Terry.
Just want to check on option number 3. That is the town dinner at Marin Art and Gardens, and there would be food and wine available, but would it also include, people would bring their own food, like a picnic?
Yes,
So
so
you've got
with
those
all of the options that we discussed or recommended, having the added option of food and beverage at the event, that would be for purchase. voluntarily, optional. You do not have to. If you bring your own food, wonderful. This just allows those that maybe are new to the event or do not want to coordinate a picnic, BYO, this would give an on-site option for them.
In 2024, the town dinner, about how many people attended?
We sold about 140 tickets. I'd say 120 were actually in attendance. It was about half from the previous year.
There were a lot of empty tables.
We were set up for 350.
Yeah.
So yes.
Right. Matt.
Of the $21,000 budget, how much was 4th of July and how much was town dinner?
Approximately 7,000 is for 4th of July and about approximately 14 is town dinner. And that mainly goes to tables and chairs and rentals.
And as a recreation manager, what would you like to do?
You know, that's a great question, Councilmember Salter. I personally, I like option 1 and option 3. I can go back to those. So option 1, I'm keeping the status quo this year with added, marketing. We heard from a representative from RPOA this evening, and seeing if we can garner more interest with increased marketing strategies, and then adding food and beverage for purchase. So option 1 is something I would highly like to consider myself, as well as option 3 of moving it to Marin Art and Garden Center. It's a beautiful facility. We'd adequately be able to host this event. And it would also provide cost savings to potentially then add on some of other events that town council may direct staff to execute on.
Could I ask you, in terms of the Magic alternative, is there a fee then paid to Magic for rental of their facility? What about the tables and so forth that we normally would pay for if the dinner were on the common? Does Magic provide those, or are we going to have a caterer providing those items too?
So Marin Art and Garden Center has quite a few tables and chairs. So they would have them on site. So we would pay a fee. There is a fee with renting their facility. We do have a great partnership with Marin Art and Garden Center. So we have been, great collaborators in finding a good price. They wouldn't be charging us top of the line. And then they do have tables and chairs that come with that price. So that's where this cost savings comes in.
And then what about charging a fee, as I think we did last year, something like $12?
Yeah, historically, the fee has been $10, and then 2 years ago, it was moved up to $12 per person.
So these options would include continuing to charge that fee?
That is correct. Mm-hmm. Unless directed by council.
Is there a reason to charge the fee?
I think I don't know the history behind it. I kind of kept the status quo, to be perfectly honest with you, the status quo of that. We don't recover our costs through those fees. It helps a little bit. It helps with a little bit of a buy-in for the event. However, maybe town manager knows a little bit more about the history of the fee.
I'm not, thank you, Maureen. I'm not familiar with the history of the fee here. I have worked with quite a few cities that have a lot of events, and usually people show up. That's usually what happens when somebody pays a fee, even if it's modest, they're much more likely to show up. And because until now, the rental of the tables and chairs is really the primary expense. You don't want to have a whole bunch of people sign up and then not show up, although we kind of had that situation. I just wanted to add, also having worked on a lot of events in the past, the movie nights are so fun. I don't know if you've ever been to them out in a public space, but they are so great. And I love the idea of having a double feature where you could have one for smaller kids and then one for the other parts of our community, kids, families with older kids, but also with adults. I love that. And so whatever the council decides to do, if we could, a talk with staff and of course bring that back, like the turkey trot was a new event for us this year. But if we have the ability to start doing something like that, and if it's well received and doesn't cost too much money, I think it'd be really, really fun.
Julie and then Elizabeth.
If we move the dinner to Marin Art Garden, I'm just wondering what are all those little kids going to be doing at Marin Art Garden?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That is something that our staff would work on and ensuring that there's something, there are activities. We are the recreation department. That is our forte, so.
Okay, and Elizabeth.
Back to the fee, I mean, I'm just wondering how necessary is it to charge a fee? I feel like the expectation of community members now is that these events are free because Live on the Common is free. And, the town helps to subsidize Live on the Common events. And maybe we should be subsidizing our own event and, try to get an RSVP to get a number of it. Maybe we shouldn't have a fee. Maybe that's discouraging people because they feel that if they didn't RSVP, they can't come. And maybe more people would come at the last minute if they knew this is the event and everyone's welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Robbins. I think that's a fair point. If council directs that, we're happy to kind of rework our budget and see how that looks. I will work closely with our town manager on that.
Yeah, Terry?
I would tend to agree. I think it's like minimal, $10. I think that you have such a good success rate at getting people to sign up, so getting people to register, but you can do that without having to pay the fee. I think maybe we should try it.
Then I guess another question is, do you think that there could be any benefit in bringing back the community tables? So many years ago, we told people that if they don't have a group of 6 or 8, that they can sign up and that they would be placed at a table with their neighbors, not unlike the winter dinner, the Ross auxiliary dinner. And there were a fair number of people, at least that first year, who said, I'd like to be part of a community table. And then, I think we told them ahead which table, that they were reserved, and maybe even told them who they'd be sitting with. And I wonder if that would enhance registration, because not everybody has 6 or 8 friends, and yet you don't want to show up and be the only couple at a table or a single person at a table. So I wonder if that would be reasonably easy to bring back, and do you think that would be helpful?
I think that is very reasonable. We did it 2 years ago, 2023, and like you said, and I found it successful. Our staff can work on that, and I think where we struggled last year was how do we focus that? I feel like we need to make that at the forefront. I feel like it just kind of fell as a a sub note, if you will, and I feel like we would just need to elevate that.
Matt?
So Maureen, I attended the RPOA meeting on Monday, and they had suggested and wondered, and I'm not sure if you looked at surveying the town or sending out a survey of options. It might be helpful, just because certain, everybody has a sort of a different opinion. For my own sake, I would say that the Live on the Commons the town dinner's way older than the Live on the Commons. And now we have these new Live on the Commons that clearly, because they're free and they're fun and there's food, and it sort of has created a sort of different experience. And so the town dinner is I think it needs to be re-envisioned, which I think is really great that you're looking at it. So maybe getting some surveys or some more input from people. And I love the idea of magic. I love the idea of not charging for it, and trying to re-envision, reimagine the event so that it caters to the audience that it needs to get the people to come back.
Thank you, Councilmember Salter. I love the idea of surveying. We to date have not done a formal survey specifically for Rosstown Dinner event. At this point in our planning, I'm happy to survey if that's what we would like to see. I believe the outcome of that survey, it would take a little too long to impact this year's event. I believe that that survey could be used for perhaps the 2026 event, if that's agreeable.
All right, well, if there's no further questions at this point, we'll open this for public comment. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this question? Yes, sir.
Yes, Sean Svensson again, 84 Shady Lane. I was astonished at how low the budget is and how well of a job this department does for our town. I'm actually in shock that you can produce all of these events for so little money. So whatever refinements you folks are discussing is like we're splitting hairs, because I commend them, and I just want to say that I am a huge fan of all these events. I attend as many of them as I can. I agree with the concept of not charging for the town picnic. Often I've been like, ooh, can I make it? Can I not make it? And I think not having a fee would definitely bring another 10 or 15% attendance, last minute people that haven't gotten their act together like me. So thank you all, and thank you for doing such a great job.
Yes, Ms. Diane.
I think the idea of having it, okay, is that better? Sorry, it's my superior height, please forgive me. I think it's a good idea to have it at the Marin Art and Garden Center for two reasons. I think that takes the pressure off the town staff to have to do it all. And I love the fact that the town staff was at the last dinner, and I hope they would consider coming this year, okay? If there's music, I like it just at the beginning. And if you want to have little background music, okay. But what I've heard from people is they want to come and talk to people. And you can't talk to people when the music is playing. It's two different events, listening to the music and having a town dinner. So that's what I would say.
Does anyone else have a comment on this, wish to comment on this item? All right, anybody on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom, Mayor.
Okay, then I will bring this matter back to the council for discussion and action, if appropriate.
So there's two different events. One is the 4th of July. So for me, I personally think it's great that you'll make it a little earlier. It'll end a little earlier. I don't know why people want to drink alcohol that early in the day, but it's people's choice. If it's available, they can. I could see coffee and, tea or something, but I say keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. And then I'll add my 2 cents worth for the other one. I love option 3. I think the first time I ever went to a town dinner was at Marin Art and Gardens, and I met people I didn't even know, and it was really lovely. It's a sort of a classy place to have a dinner. So, and I definitely would go for that movie night.
Okay, Terry, Julie, why don't we just
I agree about starting the 4th of July parade early. And I think it might have been my husband requesting alcohol at the last 4th of July parade at like 11 a.m. So I think that's a good move for some people. I think it would be nice to change the town dinner and experiment with Marin Art and Garden, as long as you can keep the kids occupied, which I have high confidence that you can. I'm a little worried that with all the Live on the Common events and, Spring Fling and spring dinner and 4th of July parade, that we might be reaching a tipping point where we've reached capacity. So I would like to have this dinner be kind of an experiment and see how many people attend, especially if we're not charging. Maybe more people will attend and it will become a more viable event. I don't like the idea of the town spending a ton of money for, just a handful of people. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's do can we call it a prototype for this year and see how it goes, and then revisit next year.
I agree. I like the idea of doing it at Magic. I like the idea of not charging. I think that also we don't charge for the age-friendly events also. And so I think it's just a roadblock we don't need. I like the idea of having softer music and sort of reimagining the event to be more interactive with townspeople and new townspeople to meet their fellow neighbors in an environment that they can sit down and kind of mingle with each other. So for all those reasons, I definitely support option 3. I definitely would like the survey, though. I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't want to, obviously, you guys don't have enough time now, but we should definitely let our residents opine and sort of, and maybe this might be a good example afterwards, since this is a prototype, is like, did you like it at Magic, or would you rather have it at the Common? And then on the 4th of July, I totally support the time change. Thank you.
So, right, 4th of July, I think that sounds fun. I think that's a great idea. And, you know, I mean, the first question really is, do we even keep the town dinner? But I think we don't quite want to get rid of it yet. And so I think we'd like to make a few changes and not get rid of it yet. But I think we really need to be very out there advertising it. I think the Art and Garden change might be helpful. Again, as Diane said, I mean, the music really, I think it's been a detriment to many people coming, because they're coming to a dinner, not a concert. And I don't think it actually matters what style the music is. It's all about the volume. If you can't, I mean, at one of the Art and Garden dinners years ago, there were tables set out everywhere, and there was a band on the stage. And midway through the evening, all of the tables near the stage were empty, and all of the tables far from the stage, they were all full, and those people were all talking, still having a nice time. I think it was just a perfect kind of demonstration of that. If it's a dinner, people will stay, and if it's a concert, people aren't going to stay because they can't talk. So it should be one or the other. And then, right, not charging and bringing in community tables. I think if we advertise it a lot, that may take the place of your survey. We will see. This is our best shot. We'll try to make some changes, publicize it, and if people come, we keep it. If they don't come, I say we quit for a few years and just let the Live in the Common events happen, and then see, you know, if somebody wants to start it up at some point later.
Sorry, the last thing I forgot to say was the ideas for new events are great. So I hope this isn't like an either or. And I know the budget meeting's coming up, but if you want to do a movie night, just propose that in the budget meeting, because I'm sure we would all support a lot of these ideas. One last thing I'd say is one of the local merchants asked about doing a farmer's market. I don't know if she approached you or not, but I think it's a great idea to bring that back. Before COVID, we had the farmer's market. So please, this town loves events. There are a lot of events, but I think there's a reason for that, because the townspeople really enjoy coming out. So please don't, you know, whatever we do with this event, I hope it doesn't exclude you from being innovative and creative, and even working again with RPOA and other groups to try to bring some of these ideas to life.
Can I make one more comment?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree about events, and movie night sounds fun. I think we have to be a little careful about the farmer's market. If it's only once a month, I'm not sure we're going to have enough people coming in once a month to really keep it viable. You know, when there's a regular farmer's market like Fairfax on Wednesdays, everybody knows that it's a big market. People plan to buy things there. But I'm a little afraid that if we try to bring a market back, and we're only bringing it back one day a month, we're just not going to generate enough people for those farmers to sell stuff.
I would just sort of echo that. I did visit the farmer's market when it was here, and it was not very well attended.
And that was weekly back then.
I think so.
It was, so it was even more, it was more regular, and even then, when it was a regularly scheduled weekly event, it wasn't that
Wasn't
well
well
attended.
attended.
Yeah.
Yeah, Krista?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to note that I've asked the gentleman that ran the farmer's market here in Ross a couple of times in the 3 years that I've worked here, and he was not interested to start doing it again. Now, it's been a good year since I asked him, but I did reach out twice at council's request.
There is a farmer's market in San Anselmo as well as Fairfax, and then, of course, the big one in San Rafael.
Well, and that's the same person. The San Anselmo Market is the
it?
same person
Yeah.
as the person who had sponsored this one.
I thought it
And
was, yeah.
It's not like many farmers. He kind of combines items and sells them.
Right. Okay, well, I join in what's been said so far. I think we have sort of a consensus, but just to recap on the 4th of July, I think we have a consensus to move it up in time. I'm very much in support of that. Last year it was so darn warm, too. There weren't a lot of people left. But yes, let's move it up. Alcohol for those who wish to have it. Typically, our family starts with the parade, and then we go on. We have other activities we go to, so we probably would not be imbibing, but, could happen. Okay, so we've got that down. Now, when the town dinner, there seems to be quite a bit of support for trying out magic, and I agree with that. I think we've talked about reimagining this or reinventing it. That would be a good way to sort of turn a new page. I agree on the music. At the town dinner or some of these other dinners, we sit around these big tables, and I'm there to talk. I just want to talk to people. I end up talking to the people next to me, and then it's got musical chairs if they're open chairs, or you start walking around because I really can't hear very well somebody on the other side of the table if there's also music. So background music or no music would be fine, but we do want to talk to each other. That's what it's all about. So I think that would be good. In terms of charging, I agree. It's probably not worth the trouble. I'm on the board of an alumni group, and we always go round and round about this. Should we charge or not? We don't charge a lot, but the one faction thought, well, if we charge, then people are making a commitment, because a lot of people sign up and then they never show. And I thought, well, if they pay, then they're going to show. Not really. So, plus it's an extra step, and we're all constantly being barraged with, pay your medical bill online, do this, do that, and you just think, hey, leave me alone, okay? So I think we should simplify it, and if people are going to go, they'll go, and if they're not going to go, they won't go. Okay, that's my 2 cents. So is that enough direction, or do we need to? Yes.
Thank you. I have a question for Maureen about magic. Have you discussed the availability of the venue yet?
I've discussed the possibility of moving. That was before we set a date, though. So that's something that I would be working on with Marin Art and Garden Center.
So may I suggest that, or at a request from the council, that we kind of have a plan B? Because it's a busy time of the year for events, and there are, we don't want to try not to compete with San Anselmo's events, and there's also the Jewish holidays that start on September 22nd, and the council has asked us in the past to not to have our event during that time frame, and that's a chunk of time. So what I'm hearing is you're interested in trying magic, so that could be plan A. But if it doesn't work out, perhaps we continue doing it on the Common this year and focus on magic the following year.
Well, could you just check the dates and come back and see what's available before we have to come up with a plan B?
Well, that's the challenge, is that the council just meets once a month. And so your next meeting is until May 8th. And so, we're happy to do that. It's just what happens is it becomes more difficult to plan an event that's happening just a handful of months later to get everything and start promoting it. So, I just bring this up. It's nice to have plan A, plan B, but a weekend in September, I think, might be challenging at Magic.
It looks like Rosh Hashanah, it says September 22 to 24, Monday to Wednesday. So maybe that does leave us, that Friday night is the last Friday in September also is a possibility, even though it conflicts with the San Anselmo event, every Friday night does. So I don't know if that's such a big problem. At the time when we changed it because of Rosh Hashanah, I think that our event fell on the very first night, and that meant that a lot of people in town weren't going to come. But I think if these are the correct dates, I think that Friday the 26th should be also a possibility. Right? That's just the first, I think.
Yeah, Terry.
I love it at the Art and Garden Center, but I understand the need to have a plan B. So I would support a plan B, holding it at the Ross Commons.
I would too, because I don't think we want to be competing with that last San Anselmo, whatever they call it. I think that's going to take away a lot of people. So
I
think
believe
we
so. I
should do
believe
the-
that's what happened last year.
The 19th, is that what you said? Yeah. And there's Live on the Common events in October, is that right?
There is the last Live on the Common on, I believe it's October 20th. It's that Friday in October.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, have we covered this then? All right, well, thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you very
everybody.
much. I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll then go to the next item, item 14. 78 Shady Lane, design review amendment and town consideration of resolution number 2512.
Good evening, Mayor Kircher and
evening.
council members. Give me one moment to share my screen. Okay. So the item before you today is the consideration of resolution number 2512, which is a design review amendment located at 78 Shady Lane. So the request as part of the design review amendment is to raise the structure by about 2 feet to conform with FEMA regulations, revisions to the exterior materials as shown here, which would consist of a standing seam metal roof, shiplap vertical siding on the second story, stucco exterior on the first floor, and then a stone base. There's also a swap of 6 square feet from these bay window areas that you see here, and then enlarging the porch and decreasing the foyer in order to square those off. So staff did receive a letter from the resident at One Locust, and on March 27th, last Thursday, I met along with Town Manager Johnson with the resident. Some of the concerns related to floor area ratio, possible noise from the HVAC. And so to respond to that and sort of address those comments and review them, I do want to point out that in 2023, the council did approve the project with 2,411 square feet. And what's before you today, based on the plans, is 2,410 square feet. So I'm saying that to clarify that there is no need for staff to approve additional floor area. There is no request for additional floor area. The project before you today is 1 square feet less than what was originally approved in 2023. So primarily the change is the height. As shown here, it was approved for 27 feet 7 inches, and they're now proposing 29 feet 6 inches, and that's to comply with FEMA regulations. So as noted, what's before the council tonight is to consider the adoption of resolution number 2512, approving a design review amendment to raise the structure for FEMA compliance, exchange 6 square feet, that's for the bay windows along the north elevation, and then revisions to the porch, deck, and exterior materials for the property located at 78 Shady Lane. And tonight, we have the applicant Leslie Jones and the property owner Heather Bennett, who can also answer any questions or provide any information for the council. And I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are any questions from council of staff? All right. Oh, yes, Matt.
Sorry, just so the raising of the property, is this due, from your understanding, is this due to the flooding and is it required?
So based on my understanding, and Rich knows a little more information, is If you want to make a remodel to the house that's over 50% the appraised value of the structure, you then need to raise the structure to meet FEMA requirements.
Right, that's correct. As we were going through the original application, it became apparent that they had going to exceed that 50% valuation of the improvements that triggers the need to raise the house out of the floodplain. So instead of her continuing to provide us with receipts and hoping beyond hope that it was going to stay below the 50%, they decided to go ahead and raise the structure to meet FEMA's requirements for construction in the flood zone.
Okay, so it's required. And then could staff comment at all about this issue of the laundry room, or just some of the issues that were brought up? I really appreciate staff's sort of input on these things.
Sure. So there's no laundry room in the basement. It's confirmed in the plans, and you'll see it in the section. There's sort of a stacked washer off a landing in the stair, but all of that equipment and all of those outlets need to be above the base flood elevation, so there cannot be anything in the basement. Otherwise, they wouldn't get their final for their building permit. Also, I did conduct a site visit, and I was able to verify that that's correct, and there's no laundry room in the basement.
Okay, and then what about the issue of the HVAC location? Is it similar?
So for the HVAC location, it's within their building envelope, and the specs show that it's going to be 53 decibels. I'm sure you're all familiar that the property line decibel level is 55, so it is compliant with the code.
Okay, and then lastly, this deck off the south side, any comments on that?
So that was decreased. The south side or the back?
Sorry, wherever the neighbor was complaining, I'm sorry.
Oh, so the south side is actually the front of the house. That deck was increased, but it's still less than 10 feet, so it doesn't count towards floor area. The foyer was made a little bit smaller to absorb the 6 square feet that they added to the bay windows on the north elevation.
Okay, so last point is, so staff, your opinion is that this is conforming to the rules, the regulations, and what's required?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no further questions, we'll hear now from the applicant. Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Town Council and Town staff. Thank you for meeting with us this evening. My name is Leslie, and I'm representing the 78 Shady Lane project. We've reviewed the staff report, and we think it thoroughly explains the project and the scope, and we don't have anything to add regarding the description of the project, but I'll be available to answer any questions that you have after public comments are over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, if there's nothing further, then at this time, on behalf of the applicant, we will hear from any other member of the public who wishes to be heard on this issue. Welcome back.
I'm back again, Sean Svensson, 84 Shady Lane. I live about, I'd say 100 feet away from the structure. My house is very close, even though there's a couple lots in between. We have narrow lots. I just want to support the applicant's request tonight. I think I'm really anxious to see the project keep going, get completed, improve the neighborhood. It's like looking great so far, but it's in a holding pattern pending resolution here. And so I see no reason to deny her request and hope that you guys proceed as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the public wish to be heard? Anyone on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Bring it back to the council then for further discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2512.
Second.
Apologies. Mayor Pro Tem McMillan. Councilmember Dowling.
Aye.
Mayor Kircher.
Aye.
Councilmember Salter.
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
All right, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
All right, very good. So item 15A, council correspondence. Anyone have any correspondence to mention? None? Okay, then item B, future council members. Anyone have any future council items to propose? Terry?
I would like to propose that maybe at one of the next meetings, we have a brief presentation by Branson School students who are really actively trying to provide advocacy around nicotine use.
Excuse me, can you use your?
Oh, I'm sorry,
microphone? Thank
nicotine
you.
use and smoking and nicotine products. And they have a little PowerPoint presentation, and they would like to present their project and a proposal to the town.
I support that.
Thank you.
So I think it's going to end up on the agenda at some point, regardless, but one thing that will be coming up is once the station closes, the disposition of the fire engine, and it's really the council's decision, do we leave it parked here for a while, which some people would like to see because they're wondering if they can pull together staffing for an engine, or do we sell it? And it's the council's decision. So at some point, I think that should come on, would have to come on the agenda.
So, yeah, just a question. Obviously, I see your face, Krista, because
Sorry.
we talked about it. You said that
Yeah.
the engine was owned by Ross Valley Fire Department, but Councilmember Robbins thought that it was purchased before we joined and it's ours. If you could just clarify that, just so before we.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get back to you just to make sure I give you the most accurate information, because I too was under the impression that it belonged to Ross Valley Fire, but it might be. I'll have to find out and get back to you.
Okay, so
Actually,
I was just going
Elizabeth?
to say, I support Councilmember Robbins putting this as an agenda item of what we should all do with this fire.
I know, yeah.
Engine.
In the JPA, from when we joined, it says that the custody, use, control, but not the ownership of all of these things stays with Ross Valley Fire Department. And I could ask Dan Mahoney about that, and he agreed. He said,
He did.
yeah, he said, yes, indeed, that it's Ross's engine, you know, if it's not, that it's Ross's engine to sell or to keep. And you can see if you look at,
Yeah.
what is it, 8B, other Ross capital assets, it looks pretty clear to me.
Okay, if that's what Chief Mahoney said, I'm surprised
That's what
that
he
they
said.
still have the same engine from 13 years ago, but
It's
or
the engine that was
14
here
years
when
ago.
we joined, apparently.
My understanding is that since it's an older engine, I think the assumption was it would be sold, but the proceeds would go to Ross.
Mm-hmm.
But it does appear that it would be Ross's choice. Do we
Right.
want it sold?
It's
or
not the fire department,
Or do
it's
we want to
Ross's
buy it
choice.
from ourselves? I don't know. Maybe that we could get some
Well, it could just be on
clarification
the
on that.
agenda at some
Yeah,
point.
okay.
Could I just ask a clarifying question? Implicit in that is we would have to have some staff to be on the engine, right? We're not just going to park an engine here. Is
it was-
Krista going to drive it?
No, I think
You
it
have to
was
pay
sort
me
of
more
a
money.
holding pattern for a year for the people who are wondering, can we pull together money to keep it here? As opposed to selling it immediately. I mean, that's kind of the
Oh.
issue. There's not staffing that's in the works. That would be a whole other conversation. But anyway, it is Ross's decision. So
So I'm sorry, I needed some clarification. I was having a little bit of trouble hearing you, Councilmember Robbins. So you're asking for an agenda item in the future?
to decide, do we sell it when it's no longer used here? Or do we keep it for, say, a year and then reassess what we do with it? Until maybe, because I don't think we're going to tear down our garage for a year. I mean, the council has to decide what to do with it.
And Chief Mahoney told you that, because he told me that they were going to put it in a reserve use at Station 19.
That's not what he told me.
Okay, so I'll
And he told me
ask Chief Mahoney about it. And then I guess I'd have to bring back some information because, we don't just it needs to be serviced. There's operational implications of it. And so, for example, the Ross Valley Fire is going to be taking some of their equipment that's not attached, a lot of their diesel fuel and all that kind of stuff that they have. A lot of that will be taken out because they own it. So I'll have to kind of do a little exploration on what the implications are of just keeping it.
Right. I mean, it doesn't, this isn't something that has to be decided right away. I mean, the JPA says use control, but not ownership of the fire apparatus, vehicles, firefighting equipment, station furnishings, and office equipment described in Exhibit A. And Exhibit A is what we came into the agreement with. So these are only the things that we brought to Ross Valley when we joined them. I can show you the JPA.
No, I've got it. Yeah, I'll read it and follow up with Chief Mahoney too.
Could you, find out from Dan what their intentions are and what his view is of this equipment and what's involved with leaving it here versus taking it, et cetera. But I don't think, since this isn't on the agenda, I don't think we can go much further right now other than to say we need some more information, and it does appear at some point we need an agenda item.
And so Councilmember Salter is the second person. I'm just.
Okay.
I support that.
Okay.
I have an item that I was hoping, could we have an update from Chris Martin on flood district zone number 9? I feel like we should probably have him come every quarter or something, just a regular cadence of giving us an update on what's going on there.
Okay, did you receive the email that I
No,
sent to you?
I saw your email.
Okay.
I just think
Yeah.
so that I appreciated your email, but so that we can ask questions and the public could come in and ask him questions. I think we're the only representative that's not on a council, so I think it just to have regular updates on what's happening with that.
But, in a way, it's already an agenda item as far as like council liaisons and reports, because that is what that is. And so maybe it would just be that the mayor would ask that liaison, because he's the liaison to the fire board, to please come to a meeting whenever there's a fire board meeting, to come on Zoom or whatever and give us an update. So, because I think it is on the agenda, it is on the agenda, we've just never had a report for him.
Well, he came once since I've been here. So all I'm asking is that he appear, if it was one of us, we would just obviously be telling and giving updates, but he's not here. So I see, you guys all see all the emails that come through about flooding. So I just feel like it's an opportunity for him to present and then for the public to ask any questions they might have about what's going on. I personally would just like more updates, just so I feel informed.
Well, sure.
So I just want to add, I think there's a difference between, Councilmember Robbins' clarification that, yes, you have this place already on your agenda for reports. And so I can certainly call Mr. Martin and invite him to come and see what meeting he's available to come. But when he comes, he gives, and this is, I guess, a question for our town attorney, under that agenda item, when liaisons are giving their reports, it's really, they're giving a report, but you mentioned Councilmember Salter asking him questions. And then it becomes more of a back and forth. And I just want to make sure I don't think that's what you can do underneath a liaison report. What do you think?
Depends how in depth. I mean, if it's a summary report, how most liaison reports are, like tonight, and there's follow-up questions, that's okay, as long as you open up for public comment. But if it gets into something more in depth, and you start having, conversations and discussions about the content, that needs to be separately noticed.
So I would say the first part, like, I think when we all give reports, sometimes we might ask each other a clarifying question, but generally it's like a report out. I went to this meeting, this is what happened. And I think that, I'm for that. I mean, I'm not trying to open this up to a big item. I just feel like we should get more information and it should be a part of a regular council cadence.
I also don't want Chris Martin to be subjected to abuse from the public. So I think it should be, a report, period. And just keep it pretty high level. And it does seem like he was just here, though. Maybe I'm just misremembering.
I think he was here maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Rich, do you recall?
It was about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah. So it's, you know, we can certainly invite him. We'll see what his availability is. We'll have him here. And just a reminder to everyone here that this is a county project. He does not work for the county. And so we just have to manage our expectations on the depth of the information he's going to be able to provide, because Zone 9 is an advisory board. It's not a governing body like the fire board is, right? And so there's only a certain amount of information the advisory board is going to have access to. And I'd like to invite Rich, is there any other clarification you could provide to the council while not having a big discussion?
Yeah, I think, Krista, you explained it very well. Chris is an advisory board member. He's not going to have any insights to how the county is approaching the important subjects that are concerning the Ross residents. I think that's my statement.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
saying
you.
this more I would like to be better informed myself as a council member of this issue. He serves on a committee. We all serve on committees, and we bring forth information so that our fellow council members are aware. And he's only come one time. This is not meant to be an appearance so that people can yell at him. It's for us to get the information. And just getting the written reports, I think, is not enough. I'd rather he sits on this committee for whatever it is, to just come and talk to the council about what he's seeing and what he's hearing, and giving us an update. I personally don't know why that would be controversial.
Is there support for that from anybody else on the council?
Well, I mean, I think anyone who's a liaison to anything should come and give a report. So I think whenever there's a flood meeting, then he should offer a report at the next meeting or the meeting after that. And it's just simply an update about what happened at the advisory meeting.
Yeah, I think the problem is nothing's happening and nothing happens at those advisory meetings, so there's nothing really to report. So I wouldn't make him come to say nothing's happening. I would ask him to use his judgment and come when there's something material that he needs to report on.
Okay, well, it sounds like Elizabeth supports it. So I don't know what else to say. We have two of us that support him giving a report. I can't even imagine it being controversial. He's sitting representing the town on a board. We should hear from him.
I think what we're trying to decide now is to whether to agendize this
Yeah, I
for
don't
further
think-
discussion.
No, it's part of the liaison report.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
think it
well,
needs
then
to
we
We're just
don't really
asking him
want
to
to.
appear.
Okay,
It doesn't have to be on the agenda.
I think we can leave it at that then.
Okay, I hear you. But did Councilmember
I
Dahlen?
was just going to say, if we leave it at that and don't get into a back and forth. Because that issue is controversial.
Right, we have an item about flood if we want, but that's not what this is. This is just, I don't want to, don't worry. This is just, Chris is giving an update whenever he goes to a meeting, if there's something to say. Okay.
Yeah, so let's make it very clear. If there's a flood zone 9 meeting that he attends, that the next council meeting, he comes and gives a report to us to hear what happened at the meeting.
Okay, good. So I think that concludes our.
I'm sorry, I have a couple
No, I
more,
got another
sorry.
one, man. I'm sorry. Didn't
So
mean to cut you off.
with the moving forward with I know you hired a project manager. I would love an update on just the Concept B master facilities. Just to come, I wasn't on the council when this was approved, and just to go through Concept B and explain what the concept is, and then talk about the financing options and how we're going to finance the Concept B. So just sort of like master facilities plan overview, and sort of like walking through how the building will get built and how it will be financed.
Just an update here, as I reported to you all a few days ago, I'm awaiting confirmation for approval from PERS. So there is no project manager on board yet. As soon as I can get that, I can't wait to get this person on board and he could work on something like that. So it's just to manage your expectations, it's going to take some time.
Oh, yeah, by the way, this is not urgent. I just wanted it to be agendized to, and even if it's before he gets hired, whoever wrote the concept be, just to sort of explain it and talk about, and just walk through the concept. And Terry, I know, wasn't on the council either, so just to give us all, it's been a few years, and then just talking about the financing, because there will have to be financing as well.
You know, I was actually reading the facilities master plan today, and I looked at the meeting minutes, and I looked at the staff report. The report is very detailed, and I think maybe if you look at the video recording from the meeting, we won't need to have another discussion about that.
I think given that it's such a huge undertaking, we should have it as a public, we're moving forward, so everyone in the public is aware and they can see it and touch it and hear it and come if they want. Aside from me being new, I think the community deserves, if this is what we're going forward with, an opportunity to have it explained to them and have them, quite frankly, if they have to vote on a bond, make sure that they feel comfortable and understand what they're voting on. So I feel like it's an information session for the public and for the new 2 council members.
I would support that, just as sort of almost like a transparency thing. That is, we have a new employee who's coming over to help get the project started, and we just show the plans that we already approved, option B, and we get started. I think there's still, it shows that we've got the ambulance, it shows the building, it shows the police, and I don't think, I think it'd be fine, because I see it as just showing where we're headed.
I would wait until we get the new person on board.
Yeah, right,
But
I
I
would
think
wait.
that it's on all of us, especially the newbies, to actually look at the master plan. It's really, I've looked at it actually in the past, and it's well laid out, it's very clear. But I didn't think about looking at the town council meeting where it's talked about. I think if all of us do that, it gives us a little bit of an advance before we have somebody come in and speak and do an overview.
Yeah, I've read it all too. I just would like the opportunity to have a public session where everybody has a chance to see it.
Okay, so we do have then two council members who would like to agendize this. All right,
I think when the new person comes,
all right,
because that'll be his
yeah,
project.
all right.
And sorry, one last item, which it's more about your email. I had emailed Krista just about the budget items and you guys may have seen it. What is the best way? Is the budget meeting the best place for that? Maybe it's not. Sorry, this is about paying interest to potential people who give us deposits. And then the second one was looking at the penalties that we charge people that they go over 20 months. So maybe I'm just opening this up to us because we can't talk outside of a council meeting, but these were 2 ideas I had to try to sort of help our residents that are doing construction.
So I saw the responses. I actually thought those were okay, so I don't know if I would be interested in putting it on the agenda, but maybe one of the others would.
Well, first of all, is it something that would be appropriate to discuss at the budget meeting? Is it already something that could be taken up, or does it require a separate agenda item? I think Matt wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be part of the budget process. I mean, I think if the council is interested in either of those 2 ideas, which then it would be appropriate for you to have 2 people asked me to agendize that. I wouldn't be able to do it for April 24th anyways, that's 2 weeks from now.
Okay, so which is fine. So maybe just let
Yeah.
me explain a little bit better for your, some residents approached me that were feeling like the deposit was a lot of money that they put forward for the construction, and they felt like they should be paid some interest because interest rates now are like 4%, and they said that would help defray some of the costs. And I said, oh, I didn't realize we didn't do that. So that was one. And the second one was there are some projects that are very large in town that you probably have seen where they've demolished an entire structure, and the building's taking longer than the 20 months that we have as the the limit. I don't know if you guys are all aware, I wasn't aware of this. It's like $250 a day, but there's accelerators. So it goes to like $500 a day and $1,000 a day. So it can get quite expensive. So I'm not the expert on why we set 20 months, but I was trying to find a way if there was exceptions. And you guys may have looked at this in the past, but these were two people that approached me and I said, these seem like worthwhile ideas for the council to at least look at if there's a way to help them.
Could I just ask Krista, maybe Matt, did you ask Krista this question? Have you put time into responding to this?
Yes. Oh, she sent an email.
Okay. Okay. This is off to the side, but I really worry because I know a number of us asked the staff to do work for them. And we do have something in our town procedural manual, which says if something is going to take more than an hour of staff time, then you need to bring it, like you're doing now, to the council before they do the work. So.
Well, I asked her the question, and so then she, I think, brought it to the council because I think what she was saying is this might require more work. So I think that's the only way we're going to know.
I might maybe read your answers too quickly, but I thought they were pretty definitive, that 20 months was okay, and that, what was the first word again? Oh, about interest, that's just simply not done. So I sort of felt like, in my opinion, you put it to rest, and I was fine with your response to your question. I mean, I appreciate your questions.
Me too.
But I was okay to just leave it the way it was, based on Krista's response.
So right now, there is not a second for what Matt is proposing, is that correct?
Correct.
Because we need 2 council members, okay. All right. Well, Matt, thank you for raising that, and Krista, thank you for the work you have done on it. All right, so any other further council items? All right, then I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the regular meeting, and then we will just take up the special meeting, which is a separate meeting. So we're adjourned from the regular meeting. Does anybody need a break? Hopefully this won't take too long, the special meeting. What time is it? Oh my gosh, 9:17. All right, so I'm going to.
10 minutes, how about that?
What's
Let's
that?
have our break in 10 minutes when you adjourn the meeting. Let's have our
Yeah,
break.
let's just keep
Let's have
going.
our break in 10 minutes when you adjourn the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear that the first time. All right, so we'll begin now the special meeting of the Ross-Town Council. All right, posting of the agenda, it's been posted. It's a special meeting, so that was properly posted, right, Krista?
Yes, Mayor.
And then item 3, Town Council to provide direction to the town manager regarding communication of the presentations and discussion of the March 13th, 2025 Town Council agenda item concerning the provision of fire and emergency medical services in Ross. And as you all recall, we did have quite a long meeting on March 13th, and the question arose, how to communicate that? Because often in the morning after, there is something about planning projects, but for something like this that involved multiple presentations and various options and so on, there was no way to put something in the morning after. Anyway, Krista, did you have something
I
to say?
prepared a few just opening remarks.
Yes, please. Thank you.
If I may. Okay. So this item was placed on the agenda by Mayor Kircher and Mayor Pro Tem McMillan. During your agenda item number 9, on the March 13th council agenda that discussed the provision of fire and emergency medical services in Ross, a majority of the council did not reach consensus to direct the town manager to expend resources to conduct additional research on potential alternatives to the closure of the Ross Fire Station. At the end of the March 13th council meeting, Mayor Pro Tem McMillan inquired how the council would communicate what happened during the council's discussion of the aforementioned agenda item number 9. That's reflected in the minutes that you approved early this evening. When she posed that question, I replied that the communication would typically occur via the meeting minutes on the town website and the morning after e-newsletter. and the council did not discuss additional communication strategies after I responded. Since March 13th, I've been asked by several members of the community to engage in additional communication with the community regarding the presentations that were made to the council during that March 13th meeting. And I'm requesting council direction on this request this evening. But to clarify, communication thus far since March 13th has been, one, we've got our minutes, which are actually the most descriptive minutes in Marin County we've recently discovered. And those were in your packet, and you approved it earlier this evening. Two, links to the presentation, the draft minutes, the video of the meeting, the staff report have all been posted on the town's website on the front page. And then in the morning after e-newsletter that will be published tomorrow, the mayor's column includes some comments on the March 13th council discussion. And then our fire chief, Dan Mahoney, also drafted a column that includes just some main points from the March 13th presentations by fire officials. There's not a lot of room, so it's just a handful of kind of factual bullet points. So in summary, if you could please let me know if the council would like additional communication to the community regarding the March 13th agenda item presentation and discussions.
So Julie and Bill, did you want something different besides the morning after?
Yes.
And what were you thinking?
I'm thinking that we need to have like an FAQ or something that is much more detailed, because people are still receiving a lot of false information and they're confused, and we need to put out the correct information about wildfire responses, about property insurance cancellation, about ambulance response time, about fire response time, et cetera, et cetera.
So you're thinking like a FAQ on the website?
I think emailed to every resident who gets the morning after, because very few people are reading the morning after, frankly, because the only thing that's really current in the morning after is the planning decisions. Everything else has to be done in advance because it's so difficult to do the layout. So it doesn't capture anything live. And I would also propose, when we have big major issues, we have at the end a discussion about how are we going to communicate this information to residents. Because, I assume that once we had that discussion and the experts were here, that everyone would be on the same page with the information, and we're clearly not. And so and very few people will watch the recording. It's 3.5 hours. Very few people will go to the website and look at the meeting minutes. This is a really important issue where 3 people came and spent, 9 hours of their time sitting here and probably 27 hours preparing. And we need to get that information to the community. So, Krista's the expert in communication. If it's a FAQ, if it's a bullet pointed list, there's many ways to do it, but we need to take control of the message.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
I think it's fine to share with people where, what we've been told and where the council is. And if it's an email or FAQ, I think the more information, the better. I'm totally fine with that.
Terry?
I would agree, a special email to everybody who normally gets the morning after. And maybe that's also, we distribute the paper morning after at the post office. So maybe even some paper copies at the post office.
In 2021, there was a Q&A, actually, that I think Joe did. The prior, was it 2020? Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. So, it can be done, it's a 2-page thing or something, very brief. And of course, it would have to be factual, not argumentative or opinion-based, but just factual.
I totally in support of that. I just hope that we footnote where the data is coming from and discuss the reports that were actually issued by Citygate, which has been the definitive independent source of information that we have. So I'm totally for having transparency and questions answered. Maybe we can all review, whatever the staff creates to make sure that we all agree.
I don't want us to be reviewing Krista's work product. And Matt, I know you sent out an email the very next morning. I did not get to review that email. So we should not be reviewing that.
Sorry, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the email that you sent out to many people about characterizing what happened at the council meeting the night before.
Okay, I'm talking about the town and the council.
I know.
So.
I know, but I didn't
so-
get to review that email.
But we're talking about a town work product and something that happened that is collectively the town council's responsibility. So.
You know what, I'm going to have I'm sorry, but I have to leave a little early, so I'm going to support the email, and I don't care too much about who reviews it. I trust that it will be accurate.
I also don't want to get into like a term paper where Krista's having to footnote every single source. That's just people, she can refer to the reports, she can refer to the staff report that has 22 separate items. She doesn't need to refer to, each statement with a footnote. It's not a term paper.
I feel like it's the council's responsibility, especially if it's this important for all of us to read whatever is being put out so that we all agree. So that
I would say if the mayor and the mayor pro tem look at it, that would be fine for me. I would trust them to be accurate.
Well, again, I don't know why it would be a fight to read and review a document that the town is putting forward with information. And I actually, if I was on staff, I would want our input to say, oh, maybe there's something that was missed or something that you would want to add, including you, Councilmember McMillan. You might want to add say, hey, one of the FAQs should probably be this question that was repeatedly asked. I think it should be a collaborative document. I really don't know why that's controversial.
May I add, the challenge here is that I cannot have a collaborative discussion with you. That would have to be at a noticed council meeting. It's very difficult. You're all busy. You have travel plans, you have work plans, breaks, and I'm not going to be able to get you all together. And waiting until May 8th to bring back a document that then you could wordsmith at the dais is just not going to be productive. So if you'd like to identify the subcommittee, I'd be happy to work, because I can work with two of you when you become available. I know the mayor will do that quickly, because you have some out-of-town time. But I'd be happy to do that if you'd like a second set of eyes. I'm not a fiction writer.
What I'm suggesting is that the council's divided. This is very obvious. The three of you voted a certain way and the two of us voted another way. I would think that if you want two people, you just select one from, I'm happy for it to be Elizabeth Robbins, and somebody from the other side to just review it and work with you to make sure the document feels like it is collectively providing information that's relevant to the community. Many of us have received questions. I love this idea. I don't know why it's controversial to have the council working with staff to come up with a really good document that provides accurate and factual information to the public. And not having the council be a part of that seems like a big mistake, because what it might end up doing is forcing more questions and more worry, because things that we've received as council members aren't being incorporated into the FAQ document.
Well, we're not going to wait until May 8th to have a global, group wordsmith. We can't do that. So two people need to volunteer or be appointed to work with Krista. And so I would say Elizabeth and maybe one of you.
Well, I am planning to go to Canada on Tuesday, so I don't know whether this can all be done by Tuesday. So we may need somebody else to do this. Okay.
Ahmet?
Okay. Yes, let's have a public comment. Does anyone wish to be heard on this? Michael. Good evening. You stayed with us this late. Welcome.
How are you? Oops, I want to make sure I get.
Okay, so 3 minutes,
Yes,
Michael.
I'm watching. Mr. Mayor and fellow council members, my name is Michael Rosenbaum, and I've lived at 14 Madrone Avenue since 1987. I firmly believe that the town council should speak in a unified voice once a decision has been made or approved in a democratic manner. As a citizen, I rely upon the elected representatives that serve on the town council to make decisions based upon facts and reports presented to it during its monthly meetings. I am disturbed to see that twice in the past 60 days, that one of your own has taken it upon himself to disseminate biased facts based solely on his interpretation of selective historical reports to both the entire Ross community and then following March's meeting just to his supporters within the Ross community. These actions not only subvert the democratic decisions of the council, derail progress, but more importantly are at the very nature extremely divisive to our tight-knit community, to our tight-knit Ross community. These actions need to be admonished by the council tonight. Word has finally reached the council tonight that there is currently a campaign afoot to call for a special election to build a new fire station, and thereby revisiting the prior council's decision to decommission the fire station. Full plans and funding of this ballot measure proposed seem to be unclear at this juncture. Tonight I come before you to ask the town to create transparency through a document that gets distributed by the town to all the Ross community with the essential facts and factors pertaining to the decision to close the fire station and to address the inaccuracies being promulgated by what appears to be a rogue member of your council. I would also suggest that an FAQ document be created on town's website so that all the citizens of Ross can have adequate access and become equally informed from a reliable source, the town, and not a single councilman's perspective. There are detrimental effects of allowing the repetition of alternative set of facts to occupy the informational sphere. I have witnessed these adverse consequences for our country. I do not want to see them happen in our town. I will remain standing for the balance of my time at the podium to ensure that my comments have a chance to resonate. I've got 30 seconds. I've got 30 seconds. I'm just going to wait, do my little Cory Booker act. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, sir. All right, no one else is present. Is there anyone on Zoom? Cindy?
There are no raised hands on Zoom, Mayor.
All right. Very good. So I'll close public comment then. Do we have enough direction to go ahead then with Elizabeth and Julie to work with Krista?
Yeah, just make sure, since she left, that Elizabeth's willing to do that. I just volunteered her.
Yeah, I should note that Councilmember Robbins had to leave about 10 minutes ago, but I would expect she would be willing to do this. All right, well, if that's all, then let's go ahead and adjourn the special meeting. Good night, everyone. Okay. Yeah, forget dinner, forget sleep, forget dinner, forget alcohol. Okay, now I have to stand, sign things, right?